Endless amounts of chaos energy spread out, covering the entire world. Endless amounts of chaos energy spread out, covering the entire world. On the primal chaos mountain, countless silhouettes could be seen. There were only 10 days left. The descendants of the Sixth Emperor, the Heavenly Kingdom, and some sects and clans from the unknown places in the primal chaos all came. Even if they didn't have the qualifications, they didn't want to miss such a once-in-lifetime event. Of course, there were also some people who were specially arranged. They were the people from the divine space. Other than the Xian nationality, many other hidden families had appeared. This included the enemies of Long Fei from the Zhu, Jiyu, and Lin families. This time, they also came to participate in the qualification battles. Of course, all of this was done by the Lord of Chaos in his secret chamber. Otherwise, they would absolutely not dare come here. Long Fei is a little B***starred, and he has caused quite a disaster to our Lin family. This time, let's work together and kill him. Die. It's too easy on him. I have to break his tendons and break his bones. I have to ravage his women one by one in order to vent the hatred in my heart. Right, there is such a qualification battle. If we get lucky, we'll be able to fight against the Emperor Xian with Chaotic Master's help. At that time, we won't have to hide our identities anymore, and won't be able to escape this world. The people from the divine space and the other families said with hatred. They only had one goal, and that was Long Fei. Gritting his teeth, he wished that he could tear Long Fei into 1,000 pieces and split his body into 5. At the same time, on the primal chaos mountain, there was still another group of people thinking about Long Fei. He was the Celestial Emperor. The Celestial Emperor had a special status, only second to the Lord of all Fiends. He was the leader of the main peak of the mountain. However, the current Celestial Emperor was not at all calm. Bastard. Bastard Long Fei. How dare you take advantage of this Emperor's absence? He's simply courting death. If it wasn't for this Emperor wanting to win over others, this Emperor would have personally killed you. The Heavenly Emperor was furious. The killing intent on his face was overwhelming. Because at this moment, he could sense everything that was happening in the Sky Empire. He was a heaven-sent noble, a throne emperor. The Heavenly Emperor Palace was the symbol of Sky Empire's destiny. Now that he had been stomped into a complete mess by Long Fei, he could naturally feel it. Their karmic luck had all collapsed. The Heavenly Emperor seal in his hand also turned dim. Beside him stood a black-clothed man with a cold expression and a sword in his hand. Celestial Emperor, let me do it. I can feel that my Li family has been completely annihilated. If I don't avenge this enmity, I will not be the son of a man. The man in black said, "Don't worry, I'm not in a hurry. If the heavens want him to die, they will definitely make him go crazy. The more you dance around, the closer you get to death. As long as he dares to come to the chaotic mountain, he will definitely die. But did the 6 people I asked you to look for find it?" The Celestial Emperor said. "They are located in a rather dispersed location, and most of them are the disciples of the big families in the Bedlam lands. Has His Majesty really decided to become enemies with them?" Li Wuming asked. "So what? As long as I control all 6 of them, this qualification battles will be in my possession, and at that time, I will be able to participate in the battle of the God of Boundary. If I am the God of Boundary, then the world is above all else." The Heavenly Emperor's aura changed as he said coldly. At this moment, in the Sky Empire, Long Fei was like a madman, crazily traveling through all the palaces as if he was looking for something. "No, not here. Who is it? Who is it? Come out. If you have the guts, come out." Long Fei was almost crazed, his mental state was unstable, and one palace after another was flipped over under Long Fei's hands. At this time, Yu Ru appeared from behind him, and with a violent movement, she tightly hugged Long Fei in her embrace. "Hubby, what happened to you? Don't scare me," Yuro asked anxiously, his face full of worry and unease. "I feel a pain in my heart, as if the most important person in my life is suffering from inhuman torture. Furthermore, it is located in this Heavenly Emperor Palace. I hate it. Why can't I find them?" Long Fei blamed himself endlessly. He clearly felt it within reach. But no matter how he scanned it with his spiritual will, he could not see it. Wait, husband, let me help you. I'll use my heavenly energy to search. Calm down first, Yuru said as she hugged Long Fei. Long Fei's eyes lit up, as if he had grabbed onto a life-saving straw of grass. Right, your power of the heavenly transformation is able to break through illusions. I can guarantee that there will be a place inside this palace that will be independent. We won't even be able to find it with spiritual will. But your heavenly energy will definitely be able to do it. Long Fei said anxiously. Yuru nodded heavily, and then her aura began to spread. A strand of sky spill power cut through the air from the tip of his finger. It spun in the air, condensing into a spirit bird. After passing through, in the blink of an eye, it disappeared. Wait. As long as your perception is correct, as long as they are within this range, even if it's a space opened by a divine throne, they will definitely know. Yuru said. Only then did Long Fei calm down. In another place, in the darkness, a few candles flickered. However, every time it flickered, it would reflect the scene of this place. Dense white bones. Crack, crack, crack. At this moment, footsteps could be heard. Liu Luoshi, do you still want to struggle? Zhen Fei asked coldly. At this moment, the entire space suddenly lit up. In front of her was a secret prison. The person in the prison was either someone else or Liu Luoshi. From top to bottom, Liu Luoshi's cultivation was restricted, and he was extremely weak. In this dark environment, she was extremely weak, and her eyes were filled with the will to die. However, her hands hugged her bulging belly instinctively. Mitch, a lowly slave is a lowly slave. If it wasn't for the fear of affecting the power of the fetus in your womb, I would have done it myself long ago. Zhen Fei's eyes turned cold as she looked at Liu Luoshi's abdomen. Instantly, Liu Luoshi woke up from his stupor. He looked at Zhen Fei in panic as he retreated. But this dungeon was only so big, there wasn't much room at all. What are you doing? No, please, no. This is Long Fei's flesh and blood, the only thing I have left that is of value to him. Please, as long as you don't hurt my child, I'm willing to do anything you want me to. Liu Luoshi begged for mercy frantically, and after retreating, he kneeled on the ground. In her haste to say out the name of her child's father, she did not notice that. Just as he said that the child was Long Fei's flesh and blood, flames of fury suddenly rose from Zhen Fei's body. Long Fei. Ha ha, if you want it, do it effortlessly. I never thought that you, this slut, would actually be Long Fei's woman. God bless me. Ha ha, Long Fei, this time, I want you to personally witness my woman die under my hands. I'll let you father and son destroy each other. Zhen Fei said as she took a step forward. He clenched his hands into fists. KCHA. The door to the dungeon was immediately opened by Zhen Fei, and she walked step by step towards Liu Luoshi. At this time, outside the palace, Long Fei had an anxious expression. Fart. Suddenly, Yuru's expression changed as she spat out a mouthful of blood. Hey, what's wrong? Long Fei asked quickly. Yuru was so powerful, she was already at the peak of the supreme level. Yuru was so powerful, she was already at the peak of the supreme level. But now, the power he was unleashing was actually being devoured. This was the only way to cause Yuru to vomit blood. Hubby, I've found it. No wonder your telepathic thoughts could not find it. That place is too evil. It's filled with bones and endless resentment. Yuru said, her face somewhat pale. Of course, it wasn't because he was scared, but because the content he felt caused jealousy and discomfort. Long Fei's face darkened. The more mysterious this place was, the more Long Fei felt that something was wrong. The more he felt that the unease and pain in his heart had something to do with this place. How are you? Eat the pill first, then we can go, Long Fei said. Even though he was extremely anxious. But it was also clear what to prioritize. Because he was also his woman, he wouldn't let her feel like he was being biased against her. Yuro did not refuse. Even though pills were extremely rare in the Bedlam lands, just like treasures of the world. But this thing, to Long Fei, was like a normal meal in a house. Casual. A moment later, in just a few breaths of time, Yu-Ru recovered. And then, he looked at Long Fei and said, I also saw a secret dungeon there. There's another woman in the cell. As she spoke till here, Yu-Ru looked at Long Fei, and her emotions suddenly tightened. Long Fei's heart also thumped once. What does that woman have to do with me? Long Fei asked tentatively. I don't know, I've never seen it. But she said something. Yu-Ru said with some hesitation. He seemed to be considering whether or not he should say it. What did he say? Long Fei hugged Yu-Ru with both hands, his face filled with extreme nervousness. Yu-Ru gritted her teeth and pondered for a moment. Then, she said that she had Long Fei's flesh and blood in her stomach. She's begging a woman not to touch her child. Yu-Ru finished her sentence in one breath. Then he felt relieved. The reason why she hesitated was because she was afraid Long Fei would be too agitated. Had always been in an extremely crazed state. She was afraid that this sentence would give Long Fei a huge shock. But she said it anyway. Because she understood Long Fei too well. Furthermore, she was his woman and his flesh and blood now. If something really happened to her, even Long Fei would not forgive himself for the rest of his life. And Long Fei, after a brief period of silence, instantly erupted. Ah, I want you dead. Long Fei roared. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The power in his body exploded with this roar, and countless palaces fell to the ground. Completely enraged. If you touch my woman, you will even harm my flesh and blood. No matter who you are, I want you dead. Get the hell out here. Go. Long Fei punched out crazily. Every punch contained the extremes of his current strength. Every punch contained the might to destroy the world. Long Fei, don't be like this. Calm down first, maybe it's just another name. Calm down first, we'll go together. We'll talk after we find someone. Yu-Ru pulled Long Fei. But the current Long Fei had long since fallen into a rage. As he said those words, an image appeared in his mind. Liu Luoshi, the first woman that he had ever decided on from the gods' martial continent. She was also the first woman to give birth to her own flesh and blood. But what about himself? Not only had they failed to protect her, they had also fallen into the Heavenly Emperor Palace and suffered inhuman torture. This kind of impact made Long Fei wish he were dead. He would rather cut himself into 1,000 pieces in exchange for his opponent's peace. Where are they? Long Fei's eyes were bloodshot, he looked like a madman. Boundless killing intent was released from his body. I'll take you there. Yu-Ru stood up and said. As he spoke, he waved his hand and the runes appeared. Go. The void rippled, and the runes seemed to be a teleportation spell, instantly teleporting through endless space. One palace after another began to move around him, as though they were illusory. Shua, shua, shua. 3 breaths later, a dark aura appeared before the two of them. It was at this moment. Long Fei's eyes started to flicker with excitement. At this moment, he felt it. A familiar aura, as well as the rhythmic movements of the blood vein, appeared in Long Fei's heart. Mine. Bones and bones. Long Fei was instantly excited. His eyes were sparkling and translucent. In this instant, Long Fei felt that in this entire world, there was no mission more important than protecting them. But then, thinking about how Liu Luoshi was still in this space, suffering from inhuman torture, and even his own child was about to fall into danger, Long Fei felt an incomparable pain in his heart. Then, he was enraged. This was the first time that Long Fei had the intention to massacre a city. F***ck, if even a hair of my woman or child gets hurt, I'll make sure you don't leave a single chicken or dog in the entire Heavenly Empire. Long Fei thought hatefully in his heart. At this time, Yu-Ru also said, Hubby, you go in first. This dimension has already been drawn out by me. But I need my power to maintain it. I can only go in by myself. I'll guard here. Yuan Ba and the others will have someone to take care of them when they come. Yu-Ru said. Long Fei contemplated, and in the end, came to the side of Yu-Ru. He bent down, and stopped her with a single breath. Yes. Yu Ru was stunned, both her eyes stared straight, as she simply did not know why Long Fei would make such a move at this time. But she could not refuse. Long Fei had already become her world, so no matter what she did, she wouldn't refuse. It was also at this time that Long Fei stood up and said, "Don't think too much about it. You are both my women, so I will treat you equally." As he spoke, Long Fei took a step forward, and directly entered the dark space. Su Su. Upon entering, a gust of cold wind blew, causing Long Fei to feel a bone-chilling cold. Woo woo woo. Ha 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 ha. TSK, 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 TSK. The wails of vengeful spirits sounded out one after another, lingering in Long Fei's ears. Ghost wails and wolf howls were extremely ear-piercing. Scram. Long Fei was furious, his blood energy was stirred. The killing weapon was placed horizontally in front of his chest. In the blink of an eye, these sounds and illusions disappeared. Some of them were even directly bombarded by the killing intent of the killing weapon, completely dispersing. One step at a time. One thought. Long Fei's heart was burning with anxiety, but this space seemed to be endless. Right at this moment, Long Fei suddenly stopped in his tracks. Illusion realm? How dare a mere Kaimai demon do evil things in front of me, and set up such a suspicious array? Long Fei's eyes turned cold. He had been anxious all along, and now, he had met with a path of death. The anger in Long Fei's heart rose to its limits in an instant. Destroy. Goop. Boom. Instantly, the saber slashed out. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The space in front of him began to be annihilated, disappearing in an instant. Ripples of spatial patterns appeared and disappeared. And in front of him was a real space. In the next moment, an extremely miserable face appeared in front of Long Fei. I beg of you, as long as you don't hurt my child, I'm willing to give up everything in exchange. In an instant, Long Fei's pupils shrank quickly like a beam of light, as his fury suddenly soared to a height of over 100,000 meters. It was a pair of eyes filled with near despair. It was a pair of eyes filled with near despair. Lonely and bitter, despair and loss filled his eyes. If it were not to protect the fetus in her womb, in order to protect Long Fei's flesh and blood, she would have already given up hope. Seeing this scene, Long Fei's heart was torn apart and he was infuriated. At this moment, Zhen Fei also reacted. He suddenly turned around and saw Long Fei. Who are you? How did you get in here? Zhen Fei was shocked, but there was also a hint of fear. Immediately after, she saw Long Fei's expression, as if she had thought of something. His eyes turned cold as he said, Long Fei, you are Long Fei? Zhen Fei shrieked, her face filled with endless hatred. Yes, I am Long Fei. Bitch, to actually be so ruthless, you will undoubtedly die today. Long Fei looked at him coldly, killing intent burst out from his eyes. Whiz. Boom. Asterisk never held back when facing off against enemies. Even if it was a woman, Long Fei would not mind. Furthermore, had tortured him to such a state, how could he let him go? As he spoke, Long Fei sped up like he was flying, and his figure instantly transformed. In the next moment, he appeared in front of Zhen Fei. He punched out. Goop. Boom. Boom. Asterisk Zhen Fei did not have time to react and was sent flying with a punch from Long Fei. His body heavily collided against the space around him, only then did he come to a stop. Fart. Cough cough. Bastard, you still dare to attack. It just so happens that you coming to find me saves me the trouble. In that case, let's explode. Heart-devouring tens of thousand ghosts, explode. Zhen Fei viciously said, her eyes filled with hatred. With that said, Long Fei's eyes were filled with doubt. Because he could not feel any changes at all. However, Long Fei no longer bothered with her. Right now, his entire mind was being tied by Liu Luoshi. Countless thoughts. Innumerable guilt. Countless feelings of unwillingness and self-blame. At this moment. I'm sorry, I'm late. Long Fei immediately hugged Liu Luoshi into his arms, disregarding his own safety. Apologize one word at a time. But no matter what, it couldn't make up for Liu Luoxi's suffering at this time. Too bitter. In this kind of environment, even if a normal person were to stay here for a period of time, their mind would collapse. Not to mention Liu Luoxi, she was someone who had never broken through to the ancient realm. Especially at this time, the instant he hugged Liu Luoxi. Long Fei's heart felt as if it was being cut by a knife. His eyes were bleeding, because she could feel that Liu Luoxi's soul fire was already at its last gasp. However, it was still connected to the fetus in his abdomen, becoming one with it. Ah, bitch, I'll kill you. Instantly, all the pain in Long Fei's heart turned into rage. A ruthless aura was born. Instantly. Boom. On Long Fei's body, the rage was condensed into reality as his aura trembled. Boom. The entire space began to rumble. The moment the dungeon appeared, the space shattered. It was not only that, those ghosts and vengeful spirits who had been hiding within this illusionary space for countless years, all released earth-shaking, earth-shattering, miserable shrieks under the impact of Long Fei's power. Ah. No, I'm innocent. Don't kill me. Damn it. Damn it. Why? I can't even be a ghost. I can't accept this. No, please stop, we are all innocent. But this voice was not one that Long Fei would pay attention to. At this moment, Zhen Fei's face was full of emotions. However, he still stood at his original position. He didn't move at all. As if she was admiring it, her expression became more pleased with herself as she saw that the more arrogant Long Fei became. Ha ha ha, Long Fei, are you sad? To see your own woman living a life worse than death, to see your own flesh and blood not being born, you must bid farewell to this world. Is it painful? Are you very unwilling? Ha ha ha. Zhen Fei laughed, her face full of malice. Long Fei's gaze turned towards Zhen Fei. Bitch, you will die miserably. I swear, I'll let you ride 10,000 men, and I'll let you be on top of everyone else. You're a bitch that can marry anyone. I'll let you experience what is called despair. Long Fei enunciated word by word, filled with hatred. Despair. Ha ha ha, Long Fei, I am right here, do you dare to make a move? Zhen Fei, on the other hand, was fearless. It was as if Long Fei's threat was completely insignificant in her eyes. Then, with a flick of her hand, a blood-red light descended. Long Fei's eyes moved. This power. Heaven's curtain technique. Long Fei, do you think that I don't have any methods? Do you really think this space exists? Let me tell you, this is just a piece of sky created by me. Under the heavens, I am the ruler. And what you can't imagine is that I used the aura of endless malevolence to feed your bones and became the source of power for this sky curtain. If this sky is torn apart, your flesh and blood will also die. Ha ha ha, you still dare to attack. And you've missed your best chance. Just now, I have already started to use my power to devour your child's life force. If you had acted just now, you might have had a chance at survival. But now, it's too late. Zhen Fei was on the verge of going insane as she swung her arms. Ah. No, please don't hurt my child. Immediately, Liu Luoxi let out a miserable scream. Boo! Long Fei's mind rumbled. His aura immediately dissipated. At this moment in time, Liu Luoxi was everything. A single voice would be able to control Long Fei's state of mind. Luoxi, how are you? Long Fei promptly carried Liu Luoxi in his arms as one holy source after another overflowed into Liu Luoxi's body. Only now did Liu Luoxi recover. He opened his eyes and saw Long Fei. Husband, you came. That's great. Even if it was just an illusion, I would be satisfied if I could see you once before I die. It's just that. I'm sorry, husband. I'm so weak. Even after risking my life, I still wasn't able to protect our child. Liu Luoxi caressed Long Fei's face, his face full of regret. Hearing this, Long Fei's heart throbbed even more painfully. It's not an illusion. Sorry I'm late. But don't worry. As long as I come, No one can harm you or our child anymore. Long Fei said firmly. At this moment, Zhen Fei coldly snorted once more. Humph. Can't hurt them? Long Fei, can you do it? As long as I use a bit of force, the entire space will collapse. At that time, your child will be annihilated, and your woman, as the carrier of power, will also die. Protect them. What do you use to protect yourself? You're just a piece of trash who can't even protect his own women and children. Look, your woman is dying from the pain. The baby inside her body is also enduring the power of the 10,000 ghost-devouring heart, and you're still talking about protecting her? Trash. As Zhen Fei said this, she seemed confident, as if she was sure of her victory. Long Fei's face was extremely gloomy. She raised her hand helplessly as she watched Liu Luoshi forcefully endure the pain, then watched as streams of cold energy erupted from her stomach. It was extremely painful. Long Fei's eyes darkened. Long Fei's eyes darkened. He was worried. Just as Zhen Fei said, Long Fei had already sensed it. Liu Luoshi's current weakness was not only the dying embers of his soul, but also the fact that he had become a vessel. The fetus in his stomach was constantly absorbing the energy of the entire space. The power of endless ghosts. The aura was so powerful that even Long Fei was shocked to see it. Therefore, if he used violence to tear down this entire space, it might really harm Liu Luoshi and the child in his womb. Long Fei was definitely not willing to see this scene. It was to the point that even though Long Fei had overturned the system's power that he currently possessed, other than the heavenly vine being able to help him recover, he was still unable to find any energy that could help him in his current predicament. Suddenly, just as Long Fei was at a loss, a clear voice came out. Ding! Congratulations player on triggering mission and saving God of Underworld. Time of mission, 1 day, task reward, upgrade of the heavenly curtain technique, inherited power of the God of Underworld. Long Fei was startled, and immediately became ecstatic. He had looked through all the powers in his body, but he hadn't been able to find the Sky Spill 3 Emperor system. He didn't expect it to be activated now. The inheritance of the God of Underworld. As he thought about it, Long Fei looked at Liu Luoshi's lower abdomen, and an intuitive association appeared in his mind. My child. Is it the God of Underworld? Instantly, Long Fei's heart went from sorrow to joy. And he was extremely happy. Since he had triggered the system's quest, it meant that there was a way to stop Zhen Fei. In other words, it wasn't impossible to achieve a breakthrough. Alright, since that's the case, then we might as well not do anything. Long Fei's eyes lit up, and looked at Liu Luoshi. Sky Spill Beast, is it the power I have right now, that I can freely assign? Long Fei asked. In the system, the Sky Spill Beast slowly woke up. Of course, boss. You can assign the power that you have now. The Sky Spill Beast replied. Long Fei nodded. Without waiting for the Sky Spill Beast to say more, he cut the contact. Since it was a random order. Then. So what if she allowed her own woman to become a great emperor? The inheritance of the Purple Star Emperor, come out. Long Fei reached his hand out and took it out of the system. This was the explosive power he had released after killing Tian Lu Hu and the others. He had never used it. Now, it was just right, it could be used on Liu Luoshi. Instantly, a majestic energy that was like a sea of stars appeared in Long Fei's hands. He pressed down lightly. It instantly entered Liu Luoshi's body. Shua shua shua. In the blink of an eye, the 10,000 astral lights spread out, and the violet light spread out. Rumble rumble rumble. Space ruptured as a beam of purple starlight descended from the sky. In the blink of an eye, it had completely poured into Liu Luoshi's body. Ruumbel. And at this moment, Liu Luoshi's body began to recover. More than that. Even the aura on Liu Luoshi's body started to change. It continued to climb. It was a grade 8 extremities. 9th grade. The first level of an ancient power. Level 2 in the blink of an eye, he had reached the 9th level. After them came the super perfection stage. Level 1, level 2 it continued to climb, to grow stronger. Plus 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 in the blink of an eye, it had reached the peak of the paragon level. At this moment, a series of changes occurred. This caused Zhenfei to be stunned. Unbelievable. Impossible, what kind of power is this? He instantly transformed from an ant into a paragon. Not even the Lord of Primordial Chaos had such a method. This is impossible. Zhenfei constantly denied. The purple star power pierced through the sky, but the purple star power did not notice. But all of these did not escape Long Fei's eyes. Previously, when Zhenfei said that the whole space was closely related to her child, Long Fei was worried about her. Even when the Purple Star Emperor's inheritance of power descended, he had not forgotten. But it was obvious. With Zhenfei's strength, what kind of demon would devour the heart? The moment Liu Luoxi received the inheritance power, he turned into ashes. It was directly washed away by the vast power of the Purple Star Emperor. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Crack, crack, crack. The entire space began to loosen up as countless cracks also erupted at this moment. At this moment, Zhenfei finally reacted. His face was pale and devoid of blood. She's fine even though the space collapsed. Also, what about 10,000 ghosts? What about 1,000 ghost bite heart? Why is her child still alive? No, I don't believe it. Zhenfei was hysterical. She was screaming like a madwoman. But to Long Fei, it was just a clown. No matter what she had planned. At this moment, it had all become a thing of the past, a complete annihilation. Call? Do you think just because you're shouting that you're awesome? Your dimensional bridge, your 1,000 devouring ghosts, has collapsed. What qualifications does the current you have to hoot in front of me? Long Fei said coldly, the killing intent around him erupting. At this time, Liu Luoxi also recovered. He opened his eyes and looked at the changes on his body. He immediately felt the inside of his stomach. Only when he felt that his stomach was still full of life did his face calm down a little. But in the next moment, Liu Luoxi looked at Zhenfei. Killing intent swept out. Long Fei, let me do it. It's all this woman's fault. She almost caused me to lose the child in my womb. If I don't kill her myself, the hatred in my heart will never be quelled. Liu Luoxi's face was resolute, as if he was two different people from her previous begging. At that time, it was because of the child, and it was because of the mother's love. Now, it was all because of him. But Long Fei only smiled. I'm afraid not. Because there is someone else who also wants to end her life with his own hands. Long Fei said mysteriously. Liu Luoxi was startled. Who else? Long Fei looked at Liu Luoxi with tender emotions running through her entire body, and said, our children, of course. The moment you recovered, the power of the Purple Star Emperor scattered the power of the eternal demon Heart Devourer and was instantly absorbed by our children. Right now, although it is still in my stomach, it already possesses a power that surpasses ordinary people. Just now, I sent out a divine will, wanting to personally kill this wicked woman. After saying that, Long Fei looked at Liu Luoxi's stomach. Ha ha ha, what a joke, you think the baby in your womb has a cultivation? He can even send a sound transmission? Why didn't you say that your child is the reincarnation of the great emperor? I'm dying of laughter. Zhenfei laughed loudly as her body flew out like a rocket. She wanted to escape. Previously, she had already known that the tide was out when Long Fei and Liu Luoxi were talking. Initially, he wanted to leave silently, but after hearing Long Fei's words, he could not help but mock him. However, she didn't expect that at that moment when she opened her mouth to turn around. A sudden change occurred. In Liu Luoxi's stomach, black energy suddenly rose, and in the blink of an eye a ball of light appeared. As if a hole had been opened in Liu Luoxi's stomach, he instantly flew out. The light didn't stop and turned into a cloud of black mist as it chased after him. All of a sudden, it enveloped Zhenfei. Then, a blood-curdling screech filled the air. Ah! But that scream only appeared for a moment, then disappeared. In the distance, Long Fei was already stunned. You're amazing, my son. Even Long Fei did not expect this. Terrifying. Other than saying you're amazing my son, Long Fei already didn't know how to express the excitement in his heart. However, his face immediately turned boiling hot. This was because the power he had just released was greater than that of the 9th level of the Supreme Grand Perfection. In other words, when his son was born, he was at the peak of the Supreme High God level. Face smacking, is this how the fuck you are? Long Fei was a little speechless in his heart. At this time, ding, congratulations player Long Fei for completing the quest, activating Inheritance God of Underworld. Ding, congratulations player for obtaining God of Underworld's legacy energy. Ding, congratulations player has received reward, Sky Curtain Technique leveled up. A system prompt appeared. Ding, Heavenly Curtain Technique has been upgraded to skill, Shrouding of the Sky. Shrouding Sky, shrouding finger, to restore the universe, to condense the sky, to cover the sky and the sun, a top-secret space. Attribute, seal, suppress, kill. Description, world-shattering heaven, covering the sky with a flick of a finger. Long Fei only glanced at it indifferently, not minding it at all. It was also a support skill. Even though the description of this skill was quite high, it might have some hidden effect. But right now, Long Fei didn't care. What mattered was that he already had a son. Moreover, she was an overpowered existence that could become an emperor from the moment she was born. Who else? At the same time, the strand of energy slowly dissipated into a boundless black aura and turned into a baby. Yes, a baby. He wasn't like Neza, who was pregnant for 3 years and 6 months, who was just a baby. Father, mother. The baby slowly opened his mouth and stopped moving. She smiled with her childish voice and walked towards Long Fei and Liu Luoshi. Child. Liu Luoshi cried bitterly as she hugged him tightly, her eyes filled with hot tears. Long Fei also went over and looked at the little fellow with the starry eyebrows and sharp eyes, and he felt an indescribable feeling in his heart. At the same time, he swore to himself that he would become stronger. To protect them. Daddy, you're so weak. Why do I have the feeling that I can kill you with a single slap? The little guy was dishonest in Liu Luoshi's arms as he looked at Long Fei with a face full of contempt. Instantly, the feeling from before returned. It was extremely painful. How could he endure being slapped by his own son? What do you know? Your father is keeping a low profile. I don't want them to think that I'm too awesome and scared off the moment they meet me. Long Fei changed the topic and said. This feeling of being looked down upon by his own son was like putting Long Fei in a pan of oil. TSK, you're still bragging. The little guy said. Long Fei was startled. Silence. It was too torturous. To be looked down upon by others and be slapped back in the face, yet to be looked down upon by his own son, what could he do? Damn it, this won't do. I must raise my cultivation as soon as possible. Otherwise, the feeling of being looked down upon by my own son will not be so embarrassing. Long Fei thought as he looked at the little fellow. You've just been born, so I'll give you a greeting gift. You knew it, I wasn't bragging just now. As Long Fei said that, he moved his mind and a strand of power directly appeared in his hand. You absorbed the power of 10,000 ghosts devouring heart, the power of Purple Star, and your father's supreme blood vein. Now, I, your father, will use my spirit blood to pass you my name. Long Fei said. However, all of this was for the sake of posturing. Because he had completed the mission and activated the God of Underworld's inheritance. It was enough to grant him a son. However, in order to show off his unfathomable abilities, Long Fei would purposely make things difficult for him. But of course, Long Fei's spirit blood's power was extremely tyrannical. Even the Emperor's legacy might not be comparable to it. At this moment, the two powers were fusing, naturally for the sake of making his son stronger. The little guy looked at Long Fei foolishly, stars shining in his eyes. He tilted his head in anticipation. Ha! Long Fei chuckled as he carried the little fellow from Liu Luoshi's embrace. Then, with a careless turn of his hand, a stream of pure energy appeared. On this energy, the aura was incomparably gloomy and cold, yet it was also supreme. It was like a supreme throne in the endless underworld, controlling the life and death of all. Immediately after, a drop of spirit blood's blood flowed out from Long Fei's fingertip and fused with it. Instantly, the entire energy began to change, becoming incomparably violent. It was as if the nether god of underworld was rising up into the sky. To overturn the heavens, to overturn the earth, to behead the gods, to behead all demons. All in all, one word. Ignite. It was as if he had no limits to his fighting spirit, proud and unparalleled. Divine barrier killing God, Buddhist barrier killing Buddha. Never yield, never turn back. Even Long Fei was frightened by this change. Then, he was a little worried, afraid that the little guy would not be able to withstand the immense power. However, what surprised him was that the little fellow didn't cower in the slightest. On the contrary, it was filled with anticipation. He stared deadly at the power in Long Fei's hands. I want. Father, give it to me, give it to me. The little guy opened his mouth and extended his hand to ask for it. Long Fei was startled for a moment, then determination flashed past his eyes. A piece of jade that could not be cut. The little guy was born a natural-born supreme being. He was born to be a supreme paragon. This inherent skill made even Long Fei jealous. Therefore, Long Fei would definitely not let such a good card go to pieces. Since he was born extraordinary. Since that was the case, he might as well go crazy. Let's see what good fortune he has. With that thought, Long Fei immediately gave the power to the little fellow. Instantly, the little guy's eyes lit up. He was abnormally excited, and before Long Fei could say anything, he swallowed all of the energy in his body in one gulp. Boop! Boom. Instantly, the little fellow's body emitted a boundless profound light. The light directly pierced through the endless palace. Not good, this place is going to collapse. Long Fei reacted. Without waiting for Liu Luoshi to react, he jumped and left the place. As for the little guy, Long Fei put it down immediately. With this surging power as the foundation, there wouldn't be any effect at all. In the next moment, Long Fei arrived beside Yu Ru. Let's leave first. Long Fei said. Now, it was too late to explain any further. This little guy was too violent. He actually swallowed up such a violent power. Who knew if something really could have happened? Su. The three of them rose and flew in the air, looking down at the Heavenly Emperor Palace. It was also at this time that the massive Heavenly Emperor Palace continued to collapse under this explosive power. A series of cracks appeared on the ground, and the entire Heavenly Emperor Palace collapsed into ruins. Along with it, those who did not manage to escape in time directly died inside, filling Long Fei's experience bar. Ding! This time, the system prompt lasted even longer. Even though they were just a few ants, it had still helped Long Fei accumulate close to 1 billion experience. Long Fei looked at the experience bar where he could level up with the last bit left, and his heart was filled with joy. However, it was only for a moment, and Long Fei retracted his gaze. Because it was already quiet down below. Suddenly, a touch of palpitation attacked. It was as if a heavenly might had descended from the heavens and was about to descend upon the sky law, punishing those who destroyed the Heavenly Emperor Palace. No. Get out of my way. Instantly, Long Fei glared as he suddenly raised his head and brandished his blade. Punishment. Punishment. It was vast like a thunderbolt, soaring through the heaven and earth. He was like a wild horse on the run, trampling the heaven and earth, descending through negligence. Swish. At a critical moment. Long Fei's slash horizontally across the sky, standing between the heavens and the earth. Even if the heaven and earth wanted to punish him, Long Fei would not allow it. Because it was his son. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The thunderclouds rolled about. Bolts of lightning flashed in the sky and the entire sky darkened. The endless darkness. It enveloped the entire Heavenly Emperor Palace. Long Fei, on the other hand, was upright and solemn, with a strict expression. It was because he could feel that the power this time was not ordinary. It was different from the primal chaos heavenly thunder that his alchemy had lured out. This was the power of destruction. It was as if the destruction of the Heavenly Emperor Palace had angered the very essence of the primal chaos. But Long Fei had to endure it. No. Just because it was his son. Boop. Finally, a pillar of light descended from the sky, traversed through the endless space and shot towards Long Fei. In the distance, no matter if it was Yu Ru or Liu Luoshi, both of them were terrified when they saw this scene. What's going on? Why do I feel as if the power of this entire unknown land of primal chaos has gathered here? Could it be that the Heavenly Emperor Palace really cannot be destroyed? A look of worry appeared in the eyes of Yu Ru as she stared at the immense power descending from the skies, her brows knitted tightly together. Holy shit! The power this time is because of us, mother and son. We cannot let Long Fei take care of it alone. Liu Luoshi's eyes fixed, and he was about to rush out of the void. Right at this moment, Long Fei suddenly turned around. Don't move. Didn't my son say that I'm bragging? Today, I shall let him know that his father is the true hero of this world. So what if it's Sky Law? If the heavens want to punish me, then I will. If you use my method, if you use my Tao, then the laws of heaven and earth will determine the true nature of all things. Long Fei's eyes turned cold as his domineering aura soared to the sky. He had to face this battle. As he had said, to establish an indomitable image in front of his son, it must be carried out. Especially those few words just now, even Long Fei felt his heart surge with emotions. What Long Fei did not know was that at this time, within the endless ruins, the little guy happened to hear these words that Long Fei had said to seek revenge on the heavens. In an instant, he was agitated. Dad, you're awesome. In an instant, the little fellow broke through the layers of obstruction and transformed into a beam of netherworld light that shot into the sky. Then, he appeared beside Long Fei. Her voice was childish, but it was filled with worship. At this time, the aura on his body had already stabilized and the god of underworld strength had been completely refined. Long Fei turned to look and his eyes were filled with love. Good son, you ascended to the heavens in one step. Even your father is envious of you. Long Fei laughed and said. Long Fei was lying when he said in his heart that he was not excited, that he had become a dragon from hope. Even if the little fellow was a dragon in the first place, Long Fei still held extremely deep expectations for him. As of now, he had fully demonstrated his talent. Born to become emperor, peak of Xiantian full circle realm, he had been above all living beings since he was born. What Xian nationality, what heavenly emperor, they were all bullshit. The so-called genius, the so-called blood vein, was in front of this little fellow. None of them existed. Dad, I'll fight alongside you this time. The little fellow raised its head and said in a childish voice. However, his tone was extremely firm. Long Fei shook his head. You're still young. Even if you're very powerful now, you've only just been born. Facing Sky Law, I am afraid it will be detrimental to you in the future. Also, you're old man and I have never been this miserable. I've said that I will show you my power. No matter what, I have to satisfy you. Also, this God's general is the first principle that I have taught you. That is, never yield. Long Fei said. He turned around. Raise your head. Facing the overwhelming and rumbling Sky Law. He opened his eyes and the killing weapon in his hand became tens of thousands of feet wide in the blink of an eye. Break for me. In an instant, Long Fei shot into the sky like he was pulling onions from dry land. But compared to the endless nothingness of this chaotic world, Long Fei's figure was just too minuscule. But even so, Long Fei still did not have the slightest bit of fear. He was going to face the adversity. He was unconvinced. The gigantic blade Qi continued for tens of thousands of meters as it flickered with light. In an instant, it was brandished towards the sky, colliding with the terrifying energy that descended from the skies. KCHA. *boom. Boom. The air exploded as if the sky had caved in. An even more terrifying aura was revealed from within, drowning Long Fei's figure in an instant. For a time, the little guy below was burning with anxiety, directly starting to cry. Father. Woo woo woo. I don't want you to die. The little guy cried, but there was no response at all in the entire space. Liu Luoshi and Yu Ru also came closer and hugged the little guy, afraid that the little guy would impulsively charge into the air. Don't worry, your father will be fine. Yu Ru calmly said. He was incomparably resolute. Yes, in this world, we are the only ones who can make your father lower his head. As for the enemy, they don't exist. Liu Luoshi said, but the worry in his eyes did not diminish. Because at this moment, she was only comforting the little fellow. At this moment, the void was vast. A hearty laugh was heard. Ha ha ha, come on, isn't this just sky law? The Heavenly Emperor Palace can't be destroyed. I will destroy it for you. What does your rules have to do with me? If you don't accept it, then this father will do it every day. Long Fei laughed incessantly as he stood proudly in the middle of heaven and earth. Even though his body had already been ruined by the power of sky law and his clothes were tattered, his firm and resolute back was still telling the world. He, Long Fei, was not afraid. Even if the heavens did not allow it, even if the rules were against it, even if the whole world was his enemy, him. No fear. Below, the three of them were staring in awe, their faces filled with adoration and adoration. Especially the little guy, he was jumping in joy, his young and tender face was filled with determination, as if he was trying to comprehend what Long Fei had said, and would never give up. Similarly, the countless cultivators in the Heavenly Empire were all shocked by the change in the world. Since the incident in the Heavenly Emperor Palace, they had already hidden themselves in a corner to observe. They had witnessed everything from Long Fei's attack to the destruction of the Heavenly Emperor Palace. Originally, everyone thought that Long Fei was courting death. It was an ant seeking death. But now, they were completely shocked. Even the rules of the unknown land of the primal chaos could not be suppressed or even punished by the heavens, leaving Long Fei with no choice. So powerful, who is this person exactly? It's a mess, it's a mess. It seems like something big is going to happen. Looks like the heavenly kingdom is about to fall. Let's hurry up and leave. One by one, these figures quickly left, afraid that because they were born in the Sky Empire, they would become a sin in Long Fei's eyes, and would be dragged into it in the end. The scene changed again. Long Fei stared arrogantly into the unknown nothingness, his expression cold. At the same time, he had some doubts. This was because the entire world had become silent. It looked like a tiger's head and tail, like the tail of a snake, but it was only an illusion and it was shattered by his saber. That shouldn't be the case. The power I felt earlier should be extremely powerful. Long Fei said, his gaze moving slightly. But right at this moment, a sudden perception caused Long Fei's face to change. Impossible. Long Fei turned and retreated, not stopping for a single step. Long Fei turned and retreated, not stopping for a single step. It was not because of how terrifying the power of this sky law was. It was because a certain aura that had appeared out of thin air had actually caused his pubes to go silent. The dragon's scale that had been lifeless moved once again. And it was getting stronger and stronger. It looked like he was about to break through Long Fei's pubes. This power was too familiar. Long Batian, and the aura within the Empyrean punishment, was able to cause such a violent reaction from Long Batian. What kind of existence could it be? The last time was when the Heavenly Emperor Palace was destroyed. And this time, it was because the Heavenly Emperor Palace was being destroyed. The two were getting more and more complicated. The aura in the sky also froze. It was as if he had similarly sensed the unusual movement within Long Fei's body, and thus did not erupt any further energy. Long Fei also understood that Sky Law's power was not limited to that. It did not explode. At that moment, Long Fei seized the opportunity and retreated. Of course, Long Fei was not afraid. He did not want to cause any internal problems. His wife and children are here now. If it was him, even if Long Batian revived, he would still dare to face it head-on. But not now. What he wanted was protection, and longevity. Now that he had a son, Long Fei naturally thought about it even more. It was just like Long Zhonting's meticulous care for him all those years ago. All of these plans were just to make him stronger. A fatherly love without boundaries. It was also the first time that Long Fei had experienced such a feeling. Therefore, at this moment, before the final moment, Long Fei would definitely not risk everything to forcefully do it. Go, let's go. Retreating back to Liu Luoshi's side, Long Fei said in a low voice. Liu Luoshi and the others had heavy expressions. Seeing Long Fei's expression, they had already guessed the seriousness of the situation. Moments later, their figures disappeared. 10,000 miles away. As for this place, it was still as calm and unmoving as before. Endless amounts of the power of heavenly retribution hovered in the air above the Heavenly Emperor Palace. Then, from the deepest parts of the Heavenly Emperor Palace, above the palace, a stream of power burst out. It was glowing with boundless light. Suddenly, an illusory figure appeared above the palace. It was ethereal, mysterious. His entire body was enveloped in light. But he could still vaguely make out a silhouette, a rough outline. It was a woman. An extremely beautiful woman with an extraordinary aura. "Is that you? Are you finally back?" The shadow looked towards the direction where Long Fei was heading to. The light emitting from his body turned into a blade of light, cold and bone-piercing. After which, the silhouette formed by the light dissipated, filling the entire Heavenly Emperor Palace. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Rumble, rumble, rumble. One building after another rose up from the ground. It was like a miracle. Reborn from oblivion. Of course, those who were already dead would not be resurrected. Even the Emperor Xian would not be able to accomplish such a large-scale death. Of course, Long Fei naturally did not know of all this. At this time, they had already met with Li Yuanba. "Ha ha ha, boss, you really are awesome. This little fellow was born and became an emperor. He is at the peak of the paragons. If you want to compete, what Xian nationality? What ancient family? All of them are useless." Li Yuanba laughed and placed the little fellow on his shoulder. The little fellow was having a lot of fun as well. "Whose son is that?" Long Fei said proudly. Liu Luoshi and Yu Ru could not stop chuckling. Especially Liu Luoshi, a trace of gentleness frequently hung in her eyes. "That's right, boss. Since this little guy is so berserk, he must have a name that is worthy of his name. How about Long Tianba? Dragon Gate Heaven Tyrant, Heaven Tyrant," Li Yuanba said as he carried the little fellow in his arms, extremely satisfied with his own idea. Suddenly, Long Fei felt his balls hurting a little. Long Tianba? Why not call her Long Batian? All of a sudden, Long Fei had the impulse to name his son Long Batian. But just as this thought appeared, Long Fei felt a destructive will come from the nearly shattered dragon scales within his pubes. Instantly, his thoughts vanished like smoke into thin air. What the hell? I want to be like father, fighting against the heavens and fighting against the earth. I'm invincible. I want to call him Dragon Invincible. Dragon traveling through heaven and earth, invincible. The little guy said in all seriousness. Her eyes were filled with anticipation, hoping to gain Long Fei's recognition. And at this time, Long Fei was even more fond of this little fellow. This was a newborn child. But in his heart, he was already looking forward to being invincible. This is so damn much better than being my father. Alright, we'll call him Unrivaled Dragon. If you want to be my son, then be invincible. Fiend God Buddha, whoever blocks you will die. Long Fei hugged the little fellow, his eyes filled with praise. However, he did not know that because of what he had said today, he would become an invincible demon king in the future. The slaughter caused a great earthquake. However, this was something that would be discussed later. Let's not talk about it here. At this time, Long Fei already had a plan, and that would be to head towards the primal Chaos Mountain. With less than 10 days left, Long Fei didn't dare to delay either. What's more, there were still 6 other emperors waiting in the primal Chaos Mountain for him to harvest. At that time, not only would he be able to acquire 6 legacies, he might even be able to level up directly. That would truly be great. Thinking to this point, Long Fei didn't delay any longer and directly locked onto his target inside the primal Chaos Mountain. At this time, within the endless primordial chaos of the mountain, the Lord of Primordial Chaos stood there with his hands behind his back. Yi Zichen looked in the direction of the Heavenly Emperor Palace with a dark expression. You're not dead. But so what if he doesn't die? Back then you suffered a crushing defeat, and it is the same for you now. When I reap your spoils, all of you will become my stepping stone. The Lord of Primal Chaos narrowed his eyes, staring at the mountain of primordial chaos. All of the various powers were gathered there. He snorted coldly, then fell silent once more. Primal Chaos Mountain. The place was bustling with activity, and pedestrians were everywhere. Countless people were sweating profusely as they roamed the mountains. Even if they didn't have the qualifications to participate, they still wanted to make use of this opportunity to get to know more people and increase their own strength. For a time, the entire mountain was bustling with activity. However, there was only one rule. That was to forbid flight. As for the reason, there was only one. That is, the Lord of Primordial Chaos is not permitted. As for the Chaoshan Mountains, they were the domain of the Lord of the Chaos. Who would dare disobey them? Who dared to disobey? Not obeying was equivalent to seeking death. When Long Fei arrived, he instantly became the target of everyone's attacks. Of course, Long Fei was not one of them. Especially, the two absolute beauties had become the targets of many self-righteous SB players. Not to mention the delicate temperament from Yu Ru, there was also the faint elegance of a great emperor. It was enough to make one daydream. Even for Liu Luoshi, the maternal brilliance from her body brought out a woman's charm to its fullest. This made everyone's eyes light up. Instantly, a group of well-dressed and powerful people came over to watch. "Beauty, are you here to watch the qualification battles as well? Come to my sect of Infinitors, I guarantee that you can stand in the front row." A young man spoke with a proud expression. The primal chaos was ethereal, and the sound of human voices was loud. The primal chaos was ethereal, and the sound of human voices was loud. However, when this youth appeared, many people stopped talking. Sect of Infinitors' young master? This is the old faction of the unknown region. No wonder he dares to be so direct, he must have some confidence now. What a pity, the two absolute beauties are going to suffer again. Young master sect of Infinitors' reputation. A wave of sighs came from the crowd. Long Fei shook his head slightly. Once again, he was ignored. With his current level of cultivation, walking into the crowd was like walking on a rotten street, or even the tail of a crane. In the entire Primal Chaos Mountain, there weren't many people who were at most at the level of an ancient Supreme Elder. Even if there were, they were still at the peak of the ancient Supreme Elders. But at this time, Dragons Unrivaled weren't willing to accept this. Although it was just born, the time it had been in Liu Luoshi's womb had already long surpassed Neza's level. After going through the inheritance of God of Underworld's power, it had washed away the evil aura within the myriad ghosts and allowed the ghost's power to become more experienced. The mind is the equivalent of an adult. Who are you? Are you flirting with my mother and second mother? Don't you know my father is here? Be careful. My old man might show off his strength and slap your mother in the womb. The little guy clenched his fists, gritted his teeth, glared, and waved his little fists. What? Mother, second mother? Only now did the sect of Infinitors' young master notice Long Fei. He looked at the little guy and then at Liu Luoshi. His expression instantly turned unsightly. Phut, I was wondering what kind of holy maiden she was, but it turns out she was already a second-hand product. How King unlucky. Gone. Gone. The young master of the sect of Infinitors turned around and was about to leave. But just at that moment, Long Fei moved. It's like he left just like that. You want to insult my woman and leave just like that? Who gave you the courage? Long Fei said coldly. A woman who had insulted him was like leaving, she did not exist. If the other party had just casually left after knowing that the two of them were already wives, Long Fei would not even bother to make a fuss about it. However, they wanted to insult the two of them. If he still wanted to leave in such an arrogant manner after that, then where would he place Long Fei? Hearing this, the young master of the sect of Infinitors stopped in his tracks, turned around, and looked at Long Fei. What is it? Do you think a piece of trash like you can stop me? Let me tell you, in this primal chaos arena, no one dares to speak to me like that. You're the first. Therefore, I've changed my mind. The young master of the sect of Infinitors had a dark and cold expression. He looked coldly at Long Fei, then shifted his gaze to Yu Ru and Liu Luoshi. Hihi, So what if you're a wife? Since you said it like that, this young master will give you a choice. Kneel in front of me like a dog and beg for forgiveness. Maybe I can even give you a chance to live. Otherwise. The young master of Sect of Infinitas swept his eyes across his surroundings. He raised his hand and waved it. Su 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 su. Immediately, one figure after another walked out from the crowd. 2 words, limitless, were engraved on his chest. Instantly, Long Fei thought of Wukong. 2F** King similar. If it was possible, Long Fei even suspected that the other party had also collected 7 dragon pearls. This costume was too impressive. Even his hair was a crown, a unique look that made one involuntarily think of him. Shua shua shua. In an instant, hundreds of people surrounded the area. At this moment, the surrounding crowd also began to shrink back. It was as if they were all from Sect of Infinitas and did not have any relation with others. Long Fei's expression also gradually became cold. Or what? Long Fei's anger had also been ignited. Infinite rise. Otherwise. I killed all the men, and the woman took them away. As for what would happen? Think about it yourself. The young master of the Sect of Infinitas said, the lust in his eyes no longer hidden. Of course, even his killing intent exploded out. Ha ha ha, boy, obediently kneel down. Like a dog, lie on the ground and apologize to our young lord. A few trash from who knows which corner actually dares to challenge our Sect of Infinitas. They are truly reckless. Chmph. The key point is that she doesn't have any strength, and she even brought 2 outrageously beautiful women. Isn't that just courting death? The people from the Sect of Infinitas all spoke out. Their gazes were fixated on the 2 of them. He completely ignored Long Fei and Li Yuanba. Because of the 2 of them, one of them didn't even have a cultivation base. One was at the level of an ancient power. It wouldn't attract their attention at all. How is it? Brat, I'll give you 3 breaths of time to consider. 3 breaths of time later, if you do not respond, then I'll turn you into a dead dog. Turn your son into a son of a bitch. Even more so, you have to personally witness your woman being taken away by this young master. In the end, it all depends on how you choose. The young master of Sect of Infinitas stared at Long Fei with his sinister eyes. Ha! But just then, Long Fei laughed. There were idiots year after year, and there were even more this year. You're ugly, but why do you want to be so beautiful? So what if there's more people? Do you believe that Lousy didn't even need to do anything today to make you, this useless person, kneel down and apologize? Long Fei said as he carried the little fellow. Are you angry? Long Fei asked. Yes, Dad, I'm going to kill them. The little guy bit down on his words with all his might, but his immature expression was extremely serious. Since you are unhappy, then go and get it. How about this time, they give it to you? This is the second reason I give it to you, and that is to protect your mother, your family. They are all things worthy of your life as protection. Whoever wants to touch them, leave them with their lives. Long Fei said with a dull tone. However, every word was extremely profound. Because these were all words spoken in Long Fei's heart. Protecting meant killing. Long Zhon Ting hadn't taught him that, so he had to hand it over to his son. To make someone invincible, not shout out, but strike with his own 2 hands. Hearing that, Liu Luosh's eyes moved, he could not bear to do anything. He stretched out his hand, wanting to speak, but he stopped and sighed. Long Fei also couldn't bear it. If possible, he wanted the little fellow to live a peaceful life. However, this era did not allow it. Strength is the way to go. All right, Dad, just you wait. I'll go kill them all. The little guy spoke, took 1 step at a time, and walked in front of Liu Luoshi. Mother, second mother, in the future, let me protect you too. In the future, I will kill whoever wants to harm you too. The little fellow had a determined expression. He turned around to face the Sect of Infinitas' young master. Do you think that just because you have more people, you can do it? Today, let me teach you a lesson. What does it mean to be invincible? The little guy took a step forward and faced the several hundred burly men. His expression did not change, and his killing intent was dense. Immediately, the sky was silent. Everyone could not believe what they were seeing. The dragon was invincible and was only the size of a 3 to 4-year-old infant. Following that, the entire hall roared with laughter. Taunt, taunt, ignore. They all began to laugh out loud, as if they had seen a great joke. A baby actually said he was going to kill them. In their eyes, this was a fantasy story. It couldn't have happened. But at this moment, the little fellow was enraged. His aura changed, revealing the aura of a supreme paragon. The netherworld was vast as it shot towards the 9 heavens. Rumble, rumble, rumble. In that instant, countless amounts of netherworld energy penetrated the mountain, dispersing all the chaotic energy in the world. Su su su. Instantly, countless streams of tyrannical auras erupted from the depths of the mountain, all of them appearing in the void above as they stared in this direction. And Long Fei's face locked onto the empty space instantly. 6 directions, 6 auras. 6 types of legacies. Sure enough, they are all here. Long Fei was excited. This was his other goal in coming to the primal Chaos Mountain. How could he let the Emperor's legacy go so easily? Of course, there were also some familiar ones within this aura. An aura of annihilation. Without even thinking about it, Long Fei had already guessed that this was definitely the person mentioned in the Li family's mouth, the one from the Forbidden Grounds, Li Wuming. At that time, Long Fei did not care about it. From the looks of it, the other party must have followed the Celestial Emperor to the primal Chaos Mountain. In other words, this place had already become the focal point. All of the powerhouse gazes were fixated on this place. And the reason was only because of this little fellow. A dragon is invincible. A super-perfection infant. Just you, who else? And right in front of their eyes, every single sect of infinitors was instantly dumbfounded. The smile on his face froze. He looked at the little fellow in front of him in disbelief, his lips trembling and cold sweat trickling down his body. Some were timid, but something yellow and white grew between their legs. Here a bunch of bastards. Do you think you're qualified to act so arrogantly in front of my father? If you don't have that strength, don't come out and act cool. Like my father, such an awesome person, fighting against the heavens and fighting against the earth, no one is afraid. What kind of birds are you? The little guy was overjoyed. He was a youngster, not to mention a child. At this moment, he was enjoying the feeling of being able to ride on the top of the crowd. As for the people from the sect of infinitors, they all became even more silent. He didn't dare to say anything. He didn't dare to refute. Not a word. Plop. The young master of the sect of infinitors could not hold on any longer and knelt down under the pressure of the little fellow's netherworld aura. Little ancestor, I admit defeat. I'm a dog, let me go. Just treat me as a fart and tell me to get lost. The young master of the sect of infinitors was complaining incessantly in his heart. He never thought that an infant would actually be the most awesome out of this group of people. Of course, instinctively, he didn't think that the little fellow was that formidable. He treated Dragon unparalleled as an old monster and purposely acted tough, pretending to be a pig to eat the tiger. But he was wrong. The little guy's way of thinking was simple. Whatever Long Fei said was what he wanted. As far as he was concerned, these were all enemies. The begging didn't even exist. At this moment, Little Rascal's eyes turned cold as it released its imperial might. Shua shua shua, one after another, power of nether after another fell from the sky. The little fellow even condensed the figure of a god of underworld behind him. He was like a giant that could lift up the sky. Die. There wasn't a trace of pity in the little fellow's eyes. According to Long Fei's teachings, all enemies were to be killed without mercy. It was also at this moment that the little fellow's voice sounded. God of Underworld, who was standing behind the little guy, slowly dropped his palm. But under this palm was an endless number of power of Nether S. It descended majestically and engulfed the world. Boom. The palm landed and shattered the mountains and rivers. The entire primal Chaos Mountain had a deep crater smashed into it, and the hundreds of people from the sect of Infinitas were instantly annihilated by one palm. Incomparable berserk. Incomparable strength. And at this moment, the system beep appeared in Long Fei's mind once again. It was a direct confirmation of their deaths. Unfortunately, these people were only giving experience and nothing else. The little guy was extremely excited, and took credit while walking to Long Fei's front. Well done, stronger than your father. Long Fei was not stingy in the slightest as he held the little fellow in his arms. He then led the rest of the group and continued forward. However, this time, no one dared to obstruct him, nor did anyone dare to approach him. To kill a chicken to set an example for a monkey, to even instantly kill a sect of Infinitas' disciple if a single word of disagreement came up, which of them would dare to go up? However, the trees wanted peace, but the wind did not stop. Long Fei had originally planned to take advantage of this crisis to get rid of the Six Emperor inheritance after arriving at the primal Chaos Mountain and get his power into his hands first so that he could complete the mission. But after going through the sect of Infinitas, it was impossible for him to keep a low profile even if he wanted to. Whiz. A figure descended. He directly arrived in front of Long Fei. However, just like before, he directly swept past Long Fei and arrived in front of Yu Ru. You have the power of Emperor Yang Tian within you. You are the power of the Purple Star Emperor. And this little guy is the power of the god of Underworld. The person said. He was wearing a simple and unadorned long robe, but his aura was extremely strange and it was impossible to see through his cultivation. I am Gao by GE, and I dare to accept you as Ancient Emperor's successor. Please join my faction. At that time, with our strength, we will definitely be able to win the qualification battles. He looked like I was awesome. But in the next moment, he was stunned. Both Yuro and Liu Luoshi completely ignored him, and directly brushed past him. Only the little guy was in Long Fei's embrace, reaching out with his middle finger and sticking out his tongue. Endless disdain and ridicule. In an instant, Gao by Ge's face became extremely ugly. He was not the sect of Infinitas, he was the successor of the Great Emperor. He called out Ascension, and the experts all followed suit. Ever since he arrived at the primal Chaos Mountain, apart from a few other Great Emperor descendants, everyone else had looks of reverence on their faces. But now, he had been slapped in the face. Clap, clap. Halt. Won't you consider my proposal? You have to know, it's not so easy to participate in a qualification battles. Also, what kind of future do you have by following a trash? I'm the Great Emperor's successor. Gao by GE said coldly. There was already a threat. And Long Fei's footsteps had also stopped at this moment. His face was dark. Trash. Long Fei muttered, and killing intent appeared in his eyes. Starting from his debut, he had heard of trash the most. I don't know, in the end, who gave you this feeling of superiority, making you able to open your mouth and keep trash on your lips. Trash. I'm just being low-key. Forget it, seeing how powerful you are, I am in a bad mood. Originally, I wanted to keep a low profile as well, but now, my strength isn't allowed to. Long Fei indifferently said as he put the little fellow down. And then, he slightly raised his head. Just at the moment when Long Fei raised his head, the entire world's qi surged. 3 auras appeared in the sky. Since all of you are unwilling to give up, I shall let you all know what is meant by absolute power. Come out. Long Fei said coldly, and looked towards Ju Tian. The sky and the earth shook, and a multicolored light that was 10,000 li long fluttered about. The sky and the earth shook, and a multicolored light that was 10,000 li long fluttered about. Above the 3 independent worlds, an aura that surpassed all living beings appeared. But not from the sky. Among them, 2 of them erupted near Long Fei. In an instant, a vortex appeared beside Long Fei. With Long Fei as the center, it frantically erupted, forming an endless storm in the blink of an eye, engulfing the figures of Long Fei and the rest. Ha ha ha, boss, I've finally recovered. I've completely refined it. Hey, big brother, I've missed you so much. 2 voices sounded out. The news spread through the entire Chaos Mountain. From afar, yet another deep voice appeared. "Boss, there's also me." Whiz. Li Wuxin's figure tore through the air, disappearing into the layers of clouds, arriving near Long Fei. At the same time, the storm disappeared, and Yaya and Zhong Yu appeared by Long Fei's side. 3 paragons. Even Yaya and Zhong Yu had completely refined the power of the inheritance. Furthermore, with the nourishment of the system's imprint, their power had been integrated, and each and every one of their movements contained the might of a great emperor. The appearance of these 3 people caused the entire mountain to fall into absolute silence. 6 great emperors. A total of 6 supreme paragons. This level of strength was enough to support any force in the unknown lands of the primal chaos. What was even more terrifying was that these 6 people were from the same faction. They all called Long Fei their boss. Gao Baiji's face immediately turned red. A burning pain. With a single word, he summoned 3 great emperors. "You are awesome. You are just a great emperor's legacy." Right now, Long Fei could summon out 3 with a single word, and any one of them could easily crush him. This contrast. It was an undisguised slap to the face. "Ha ha ha, Gao Baiji, this time you're so strong, you can't be arrogant. My boss wants to keep a low profile, but you guys keep up the act. Continue acting. Great Emperor, it's nothing. We're all in bulk here." Li Yuanba laughed. His laughter was incomparably savage. Gao Baiji did not utter a single word. His face was ashen. He didn't have the courage to speak at all. Initially, he felt that being the successor of the emperor was extremely impressive. But now, he looked like a clown. Long Fei, on the other hand, had a cold smile on his face as he looked at Gao Baiji. High grade. No matter how arrogant you are, you have to come down here in front of me. The striking system has never submitted to anyone who's good at acting tough. Acting tough in front of lousy makes you cry very rhythmically, he thought to himself. Long Fei's gaze also locked onto Gao Baiji. How could Long Fei let go of the inheritance of the great emperor that had been delivered to his doorstep? Thinking about it, Long Fei stepped forward. "What is it? Why didn't you say anything else? Isn't the successor of your great emperor awesome? Yell. Now, tell lousy, who the F***ck is the trash?" Long Fei said coldly. Creak. He gritted his teeth. He just didn't dare to speak. "Speak. Tell me, who's the trash?" Long Fei kept quiet and kept tight. Long Fei would never let go of the inheritance power that he had obtained. As such, he was in the middle of something. "Kid, don't be overbearing," Gao Baiji said in a deep voice. So many people were watching now. Most of it was recruited by him, so he didn't want to lose too badly. "So what if I force you? Weren't you awesome just now? When you call me trash, it feels so good. I'm not in a good mood now." Long Fei did not retreat a single step. "Brat. Don't force me." He took a step back and opened up the sea and sky. "It's me," Gao Baiji said, his eyes full of humiliation. Gao Baiji took a step back, wanting to leave. Staying here for another minute was a form of torture for him. It was as though the entire chaotic mountain had its gaze fixed on him. It was all ridicule and contempt. In any case, the heck, a mere emperor's inheritance dares to come before me and act so pretentious. I'll give you a chance. Kneel down and apologize to my woman. Then, shout 3 times that you're trash, and I'll let you off. How about that? Long Fei said indifferently. Of course, Long Fei knew. Gao Baiji would definitely refuse. This was what he had been waiting for. Things had to be done as expected. Indeed, just as Long Fei's voice fell, Gao Baiji was so angry from embarrassment that he instantly stood up. "Kid, the dignity of an emperor is not something that you can insult. Do you think you're so amazing just because you have these people protecting you? If I were to make a move, I would be able to instantly kill you. You have to understand that you're just a piece of trash." Gao Baiji threatened. Long Fei did not move. The corners of his mouth curled up in a cold smile. Using him as a threat. In Long Fei's opinion, it was laughable. As for Li Yuanba and the rest, they too fell silent and looked at Jiao Bij curiously. His eyes were filled with pity. Hehe, this idiot is threatening my dad, I'm so laughing. The little guy laughed. Ah, a trash of an ancient almighty, how could your father's words be useless? I'm just threatening you, what's wrong? If you are capable, why don't you try? Even if their cultivation is extraordinary, your father has absolute confidence in killing you at the first possible moment. Gao by Ge was extremely angry. The little guy's mockery had become the final aphrodisiac. In an instant, Gao by Ge attacked. All of a sudden, a pair of ancient palms appeared. As soon as this aura appeared, space and time seemed to come to a standstill. Even Long Fei felt dizzy and his body froze. It was as if he was watching everything that was happening without being able to move at all. TSK, boy, this is the result of you provoking me. You are awesome, you have 6 great emperors under your command. But so what? The power I inherited is the power of space-time. It's an ancient power that binds time and separates time. It's only a type of divine ability. Killing you is as easy as blowing off dust. He walked alone. His speed was very slow. But it was also hard to figure out. Relative to being frozen by others made him appear incomparably fast. Whiz. In the next moment, Gao by Ge directly appeared in front of Long Fei. His face had a sinister look. Trash, go to hell. Boop. Boom. Gao by Ge's palm descended. But right at this moment, Long Fei, who had originally stopped moving, suddenly moved. The power of space and time, the inheritance of the ancient emperor, is indeed a very special power. But, sorry. Although this power is awesome. But unfortunately, I have the Sky Spill Emperor's system. Your power is useless against me. The corner of Long Fei's mouth carried a cold smile, and he inadvertently dodged Gao by Ge's palm. Then, he turned around. With a great killing weapon in hand, a blade fell. Boom. 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 Asterisk, a loud sound rang out, and space and time returned to normal. Countless people recovered from their shock and turned to look at the scene. Gao by Ge's body was already decapitated, and he was bleeding profusely. His whole body is lying in a pool of blood, and there is even a trace of malevolence on his face. Hey, a little more blood. Then I'll send you off again. Everything was uninhibited in front of Long Fei. Everything was uninhibited in front of Long Fei. Nothing could stop his desire for the boss. Even if Gao by Ge wasn't a boss, he definitely wasn't far off from it. After all, this was the legacy of a great emperor. Just this point alone, Long Fei could not let it go. Boom. Asterisk, the moment his foot landed, the amount of blood on Gao Bai's head instantly turned into a pile of white blood. Ding. Congratulations to the player Long Fei for killing the ancient emperor's successor, high level of experience, 1,500 million points. The holy source is worth 150,000 points. Ding. Congratulations player for obtaining ancient emperor's inheritance. The system notification popped up. However, what made Long Fei a little regretful was that the experience he had gained was a little too little. Although it was a super monster, because of Long Fei's level up, the other party's strength made it impossible for him to resist against Long Fei. As a result, the amount of experience he had was relatively small. That's fine. At least, it's another legacy. Long Fei nodded with satisfaction in his heart. It could be considered a strand of power, coupled with the power of Emperor Fang Tian in his hands. Right now, he had the 8 great emperors under his control. Rotten Emperor Zhongyu, Immortal Emperor Yaya, Immortal Emperor Yu Ru, Destroyer Emperor Li Wuxin, Purple Star Emperor Liu Luoshi, God of Underworld Dragon Unparalleled. A whole emperor. Adding on the remaining 5 hidden in the void, there were exactly 13 of them. Ha ha ha, it's close. It's close. I wonder if the rest of them are just like this arrogant guy, who likes to act tough. Kill them all at once and complete the mission directly. When that happens, all the celestial emperors will be scum. Long Fei thought excitedly in his heart, looking forward to it greatly. In the next moment, his gaze turned towards the other 5 directions in the air. It was the remaining people. It was a pity that their auras disappeared in an instant. They did not meet Long Fei's gaze at all. At the same time, the Chaos Mountain exploded. Countless discussions broke out. Damn, what happened? It seems like just a moment ago, a broken piece and then he woke up, and a peak-level great perfection powerhouse died. Or should I say, this is a pretentious guy. He doesn't seem to be of any use at all. Terrifying, too terrifying. He absolutely could not be provoked. He clearly had the strength to kill a super perfection expert, but he was still pretending to be a pig to eat the tiger. A typical posturing king. These voices were coming and going in and out of the crowd. Subconsciously, Long Fei received the title of acting tough king. But Long Fei did not mind at all. On the contrary, Long Fei readily accepted it. Then, he looked in every direction towards the mountain and said, "Everyone, you're right. Is Laozi just pretending? Even Li Qiyi has to admit defeat in front of your father. The son of Master Xian Chenbei will also not take it to heart. Let's put it this way. Everyone present, in my eyes, is only a bunch of jumping clowns. They are all trash who have the courage to jump around and not qualified to enter the stage." As he said that, Long Fei immediately stood with his hands behind his back, waiting quietly. However, many people did not know what was going on with these words. The 10 Realms Forcing King, Li Qie, and the City Forcing King, Chen Beixian, were supreme existences in a novel from his previous life. But now, Long Fei had an impulse to fight the 2 of them on the road of posturing. But of course, in Long Fei's eyes, the so-called posturing required one to have sufficient strength. Just like now, when he faced the entire primal Chaos Mountain, Long Fei was not afraid in the slightest. On the contrary, Long Fei actually hoped that they could jump out and level up. However, there wasn't the slightest hint of disharmony in the entire primal Chaos Mountain. Even if Long Fei had said all this out of provocation. However, no one stood up to refute him. If the 6 great emperors were here, who would dare to stand out? How boring. I thought someone would stand out and give me a surprise, Long Fei said. He turned and picked up the little fellow, and continued walking. Su su su. Countless figures instantly moved out of the way, afraid that they would stand out too much and block Long Fei's way. What Long Fei did not know was that he was currently somewhere in the primal Chaos Mountain. 7 pairs of eyes were staring fixedly at him. All of their gazes were as if they were on stimulants. So awesome, so overbearing. So shocking, so dazzling. Ha ha ha, the boss is the boss, and he's still so violent. However, I like it. As Chen Tianfei spoke, his aura was as deep as the earth, causing the entire primal chaos ground to tremble. The rest of them also jumped up and tried jumping out. They really wanted to jump out. Suddenly, Aoya took a step forward. Long Fei has displayed such a high profile, he must have his own plans. Maybe it's to let the enemies in the shadows attack. Therefore, now is not the time for us to show up. Let's wait a little longer. Oya looked at the others as she spoke. Sky Spirit, Lin Yusheng, Ahat and the Black Knife all nodded. Even though they were extremely excited in their hearts, they couldn't wait to jump out and meet Long Fei. However, they did not dare to disobey Aoya. Sister-in-law is right. In that case, we will wait. When boss's true enemy appears, we will show ourselves and be his backup. Right, boss is really tough. When the other person thinks he's amazing, it'll be time for us to show ourselves. As they spoke, the few of them also disappeared. At this time, Long Fei also found a resting place. It was no other than the palace that Gobig had prepared. But now, everything belonged to Long Fei. Boss, aren't we being too high-profile by doing this? The 5 of them are not weak and all of them have their own backers, so I'm afraid that they will cause trouble. Li Yuanba said with concern. It's nothing, trouble. It doesn't matter how many arrive. Most of the time, it's not something we can dodge just because we want to. Since I can't dodge it, I might as well do it. If one comes, I'll do it, but if two comes, then I'll kill a pair. Long Fei casually said, disagreeing. But what Long Fei did not know was that they were on top of the primal Chaos Mountain, in a certain palace. It was like a meeting, gathering countless forces. Amongst them, there was no lack of those with high cultivation bases who occupied the left side. Everyone can see it now. This bastard is too arrogant. If we don't suppress him, I'm afraid we won't have a chance. Therefore, I suggest that from now on, all of us should join hands. And he only has one goal, and that is to get rid of Long Fei. I won't let him have another chance to be so arrogant. The Lin, Jiyu, and Ju families of the divine space all spoke out. Each of his words was filled with hatred towards Long Fei. All right, that's great. If we work together, we will have a lot of experts who can completely crush Long Fei. Right, that's what we should do. Countless voices of agreement appeared. A simple meeting was enough to directly define their method for Long Fei. Even Long Fei himself didn't think that he would actually incur the wrath of the masses. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. In these 3 days, Long Fei closed his doors and went out. He was completely immersed in the Sky Spill Emperor's system and God's Pavilion. Although these inheritances were powerful, they didn't match up to him. Although he had obtained a few related strength skills, Long Fei did not plan to refine them. However, time was of the essence, and Long Fei did not have the time to find more people to pass on his powers. And the best choice would be the God's Pavilion. In the 999 Masters of the God's Pavilion, cultivation powers and the legacy of the Great Emperor would always complement each other. At that time, he would be able to fuse them together and become an emperor with a single step. Master, it won't be long, at most a few days, God's Pavilion's powers will be fully recovered. At that time, I will F***K him. Inside the space, the God's Pavilion said excitedly. Yes, a few days is enough. But before that, we have to get the Minyo and the Devil Origin out first. Long Fei said. It didn't matter if it was the Minyo or the Devil Origin. They were all people who had given their lives for him. Was never stingy towards his own people. Su. 2 figures descended from the sky. Master. With the appearance of Demon Origin and Ma Wu, the two of them immediately knelt in front of Long Fei. Get up. The reason I called you out this time is to give you guys a good fortune. Long Fei said in a serious tone. With that, Long Fei took out the inheritance power of the Emperor of Heaven and the Ancient Emperor. Demon Source, this is yours. This one is yours. Long Fei passed 2 strands of power to the two of them. In an instant, their eyes bloomed with boundless light. They were the leaders of their respective planes of existence, so it was natural that they would be able to tell how extraordinary this emperor's legacy was with a single glance. This is the legacy power of Emperor Fang Tian. The Devil Origin has a violent nature, and has unparalleled magic. It is possible that you will be able to further refine the power of Emperor Fang Tian. It is also impossible for you to surpass Emperor Fang Tian. Impossible. Long Fei said. As for the hempen, you have long legs. However, Emperor Changsheng's legacy already had a candidate, and that was little Yari. Therefore, I can only give you Ancient Emperor's power. The vicissitudes of time, the endless space-time, and your power, they are all similar to your powers, refined in a similar fashion. In the future, we might also have some unexpected gains. Long Fei said in all seriousness. His heart was beating like a drum. This was because this power was something that he could assign at will. As for this explanation, it was just a casual remark. In the end, even he didn't know. But no matter if it was the Ma clan or the Demon Origin. At this moment, he became excited. Thank you, Master. Thank you, Master. Aunt Ma, my life is already Master's. As long as Master says it, the Demon Origin will definitely go back and forth without any hesitation. Ma Wu excitedly received the Ancient Emperor's inheritance power. The nun quickly expressed her feelings. The owner of the Devil Origin was startled. He laughed mischievously, and with certainty in his eyes, he looked at Long Fei affectionately as he cupped his fists. "Me too." Hiss. Long Fei took a deep breath. A strange sense of familiarity appeared before his eyes. The nun also helplessly looked at the devil origin, the corner of her mouth filled with disdain. Right. As the saying goes, despising a person doesn't necessarily mean it, and looks can tell you. "Master, I'll go refine it first. I'll be able to master it in about 2 days." The nun said and left. He took the initiative to return to the god's pavilion. The devil origin looked at Long Fei and laughed. "Me too." After saying that, with a swoosh, he also disappeared. Only Long Fei remained, messy in the wind. F*ck, I almost became a grass shoe seller. Don't say it, that big beard of Demonshines really has a bit of Zhong Fei's appearance. Long Fei thought as he opened the door. He happened to see Yaya playing with the little guy. Suddenly, Long Fei felt a warmth in his heart. At the same time, he clenched his fists tightly, and a new thirst for power appeared in his heart. Right now, peace was what he wanted, and what he wanted to protect. Long Fei absolutely would not allow anyone to destroy it. That's about right. As long as we get to participate in the qualification battles, it's time to face the Emperor Xian. As he thought about this, Long Fei also looked towards the endless primal chaos. It was also at this time that the little guy and the pup noticed that Long Fei had arrived. Thus, Long Fei became the super wet nurse. One in each hand. "Big brother, I feel that there are a lot of eyes watching us from all sides." While speaking with an innocent face, Yaya still retained her original personality. She was a little restrained and afraid as she scratched the corner of her shirt and said, "That's right, old man. Do you want me to kill them all?" The little guy, on the other hand, disapproved and opened his mouth to kill. Long Fei chuckled. "No need, they want to see, just let them watch. There's only a few days left anyway." After saying that, a cold light flashed in Long Fei's eyes. 7 days. With only 7 days left, the qualification battles would begin. Long Fei did not believe that these people could endure for 7 days. Therefore, before the qualification battles started, they would definitely create some kind of trouble for Long Fei. Hence, Long Fei pretended not to notice them and allowed them to look around. Dong, dong, dong. Rumble, rumble, rumble. It was like a gong in the sky, resounding through the primal chaos. Chaos clouds surged in the skies, following which, a powerful aura appeared. Rising into the air, the light of chaos spread throughout the world. Long Fei's eyes focused, he put the little fellow down and went forward to receive it. Without even thinking about it, just the appearance of this aura alone was enough for Long Fei to guess who it was. The Lord of Primordial Chaos. Only the Lord of the Chaos would dare to make a name for himself on this mountain. Even the Celestial Emperor wouldn't dare to do such a thing. In the distance, those who were observing the surroundings exposed themselves the moment this aura appeared. They seemed to have been targeted by the light of chaos. And then, one by one, their bodies exploded and they died. It was also at this moment that the figure of the Lord of Chaos appeared silently in the void above them. I have long said that before the qualification battles begin, do not cause any unnecessary trouble. But you guys just refused to listen. Long Fei is the son of primal chaos that this reputed one has bestowed upon me. This time's execution is a precedent. It will serve as an example to others. After speaking, he began to fade away. Beneath him, Long Fei's fists were clenched so tightly that ka sounds could be heard. Son of primal chaos, Long Fei had never forgotten. However, he did not take it seriously either. But now, after the Lord of Primal Chaos revealed this identity, he had actually placed Long Fei in the public eye. In just a short period of time, the Chaos Mountain began to spread like a rocket. The Lord of Primal Chaos controlling the qualification battles, and Long Fei was the son of the Primal Chaos, so such a subtle relationship instantly became the focus of discussion. Son of Primal Chaos? There must be something behind this. No wonder he's so awesome. So he actually has such a powerful background. Chempage. If they want to play tricks on us, they'll have to ask the people of this world for permission. Even the Lord of Chaos can't force their way in. He's just a child of primal chaos. As long as he dies, he won't even have a chance to participate in the qualification battles. In a moment, countless speculations broke out. But everyone's attitude was surprisingly unified, and that was towards Long Fei. Did not care about being targeted. Did not care about being targeted. But the appearance of the Lord of Primal Chaos completely exposed Long Fei to the eyes of everyone present. All of the thoughts that Long Fei wanted to use to steal something were instantly hollowed out. Originally, Long Fei wanted to occupy a passive position and find an opportunity. He had obtained the inheritance of the 5 emperors. But this time, the Lord of Primal Chaos had actually pushed Long Fei out. To be targeted by everyone. In that case, it would be impossible to capture all of the 5 emperors' legacies in one fell swoop. F***ck, this is bad news for your father. Long Fei said coldly. At the same time, he was also wary of the Lord of Chaos. In other words, from the very beginning, Long Fei had never truly trusted the Lord of Primal Chaos. No, that can't be right. The position of the Lord of Chaos definitely can't be so small. If you point out my identity as the son of Primal Chaos at this time, you absolutely won't make me stand out and become the target of others' eyes. Of course. There are other conspiracies. As he thought about it, Long Fei's heart started to move. How could it be easy to be with Long Batian, the owner of this era? At this time, Li Yuanba, Yu Ru and the others had also rushed over with cautious expressions. Even they knew that Long Fei's identity would be exposed at this time, and there would definitely be nothing good going on. Sure enough. The moment they arrived, the manor they were in was already surrounded. Thousands of people surrounded Long Fei and the others. Boss, are we going to get dumplings? Li Yuanba laughed foolishly, but he was not afraid at all. Almost instinctively, he stepped forward. However, Li Wuxin did not stop after him. He also stood forward. This was his mission. From the moment he recognized Long Fei as his boss, he had already been dead set. To live for Long Fei, to die for Long Fei. Next was Zhong Yu. The 3 of them were practically standing horizontally in front of the door, blocking everything outside. Get the hell out of here, Sect of Infinitors is doing something. God damn, so what if he's the son of Primal Chaos? Since he killed our young sect master, he has to give an explanation. HMPH. The son of Chaos, he isn't the son of the Lord of Chaos. Even if it is, there must be an explanation for the murder. The reprimands were extremely crazy. There was a fierce look on their faces. It seemed like they were here to denounce him. Furthermore, Long Fei had just killed the young master of the Sect of Infinitors a few days ago. However, Long Fei did not believe it was that simple. He didn't come early, then he didn't come late. Why did he come here after the Lord of Primordial Chaos revealed my identity? Interesting. A cold light flashed across Long Fei's eyes. His instincts told him that this had something to do with the Lord of Chaos. Instantly, that harmless, benevolent smile flashed in his mind. There's a problem with Juby. Long Fei thought. It could even be said that the mastermind behind all of this was the Lord of the Chaos. One had to know that the reason he had obtained the title of being the son of Primal Chaos was because he had killed Zhao Hao and the Zhao clan patriarch. And back then, a thought had descended on the main level of the Primal Chaos. At the same time Long Fei's identity was recognized, a rule had also appeared. In other words, today he was the son of Primal Chaos. But if someone killed him, that person would take his place. Furthermore, the sudden appearance of the Sect of Infinitors was the most suitable explanation. Completely complementary. As for the relationship between the Sect of Infinitors and the Lord of Primal Chaos, it could be said that there was no such thing as relationship. There was no need to guess. The Lord of the Chaos was so powerful, he had actually found a dog and had just toyed with it. Thinking about it, Long Fei's eyes turned playful. He slowly stepped forward. So, you are here to interrogate me? Long Fei said indifferently. You're right, kid. If you know what's good for you, come out right now and kowtow and admit your mistake. Right, This will also give you a sense of dignity. Otherwise, once we make a move, you won't be able to do it, even if you have a few paragons under your command." The people from the sect of Infinitors shouted. He was so arrogant that he did not even put Long Fei in his eyes. It was as if everything had been arranged beforehand. Long Fei muttered to himself as he sneered, not saying a single word. But Li Yuanba had long since been unable to tolerate it. "What did you say?" Li Yuanba took a step forward, his aura exuding unceasingly. He stretched out his hand and grabbed the figure of a person, then slipped away. "Didn't you say that you're not afraid? Didn't you say that we can't do it as well? Try again." Li Yuanba said coldly. "You." That person's eyes flashed. Under the suppression of Li Yuanba's aura, he did not even have the courage to open his mouth anymore. "Say it, blame me. Ask your ancestors." KCHA. Asterisk Li Yuanba slightly exerted force, immediately ending the other party's name. "Who else? Who else came to criticize us? Step forward and let this old man see." Li Yuanba spat out, and touched his shiny bald head. He was incomparably domineering. "Enough. No matter who it is, there must be an explanation for who killed them. Your power is very special, but you are not qualified to do as you wish." Suddenly, a voice came from the void. "Shua shua shua." Countless gazes shifted over. Whiz. A figure appeared out of nowhere with a spear strapped to his back. His eyes were ice-cold. Long Fei's eyes were also slightly moved. This person's aura was not unfamiliar to him. He was a general of the Zhu clan. Li Wuxin and the others also felt that the atmosphere was unusual. Just as they were about to step forward, they suddenly stopped. The void erupted once again. Su su su. Su su su. 7 figures descended in a row. The inheritors of the 5 emperors, the Lin clan and the Jiyu clan of the divine space. A total of 7 people. This was their alliance. Killing to pay with one's life is a matter of course. What we hate the most is using our little cultivation base to run amok. If you do not help today, we will not help. If you guys make a move, then don't blame us for not being loyal. The Jiyu family member said. Long Fei laughed instead. "What, you want to build a memorial archway after becoming a whore? Long Fei, just be cocky. Now, do you think you can remain safe and sound under the power of the entire sect of Infinitors? Do you think the 6 of them can still protect you? As long as they make a move, I'll catch all of you today." A Lin family member of the divine space spoke out. Long Fei maintained his composure. His expression did not change as he watched quietly. The people of Sect of Infinitors started to laugh crazily, feeling that Long Fei no longer had anything to rely on. Instantly, his confidence grew. "Haha, boy, there's no other way, right? Do you think you are the only one with a powerhouse? In this world, there are still loyal people. Today, even if the great Rudra Golden Immortal descends to the mortal world, no one can save you. Die. Ta 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 ta." There were thousands of people from the sect of Infinitors S, and the encirclement was shrinking without end. Instantly, the situation was at Long Fei's disadvantage. But when she looked at Long Fei, there was not a single trace of worry. However, the coldness in his eyes only grew stronger. "Is that so? Since that's the case, then don't waste any more time. All of you. Let's attack together." In the face of absolute power, all schemes and tricks were useless. In the face of absolute power, all schemes and tricks were useless. On this primal chaos mountain, there were only 2 people that Long Fei feared. One was the Celestial Emperor, the other the Lord of Primordial Chaos. As for the others, sorry, Long Fei didn't even want to know who the other party was. Therefore, at this time, Long Fei didn't even want to waste time. He even had a crazy idea. "Since you want to play the big game and push me to the public's doorstep, then I wonder, if I kill all of them, how will I play the qualification battles?" Long Fei thought coldly in his heart. The more he thought about it, the more unbridled Long Fei became in his heart. Not causing trouble, but it didn't mean he was afraid of trouble. So what if they are enemies of the divine space? So what if he was the successor of the 5 emperors? So what if it was the Lord of Chaos? One could not submit, it was just like steel. At this time, the person in front of Long Fei was also infuriated. Too casual. He completely ignored them. Don't waste your time. It made them feel a burning pain on their faces. He had spent so much effort and time and effort to come up with such an absolute plan. But good thing was, Long Fei did not care at all. Long Fei, do you think you still have the qualifications to be so arrogant? Even if your methods are impressive, we have already figured it out long ago. You have consumed a lot of energy, so you can only kill one at a time. Also, your pubes's power has long been defeated by the Heavenly Emperor. What qualifications do you have to be so arrogant? As the Lin family's fairy Lin spoke, her eyes glinted with a solemn light as she patiently endured her killing intent. However, his words resonated with the world. This was because the fewer methods Long Fei had, the more successful they would be. Therefore, he naturally would not miss this chance to belittle Long Fei. Haha, so that's how it is. So it's just a one-time use method. Silver spear wax cannot be used again. In that case, what is there to be afraid of? Go up, kill him. Killing intent flashed in the eyes of the people of Sect of Infinitors. They all started to move forward, wanting to take action. But Long Fei was still as relaxed as before. Even the little fellow in his embrace didn't show any signs of fear. On the other hand, the experiences since she was young made her a little timid. Even if he possessed earth-shattering power, he would still be extremely kind. Little fellow, protect little big sister today. Leave the rest to Dad. Long Fei put the little guy down. Dad, let's just forget about it. Why don't you just destroy those big guys and let me deal with this bunch of trash? Too annoying. Watching all this affects your mood. The little guy shook his head and said to Long Fei. Long Fei was startled. He didn't expect the little fellow to be so violent. He had completely inherited his own quintessence. If he was unhappy, then he would kill. Don't worry. There will be time for you to kill him. But now, it was still his father's era. Just watch. Ha ha ha. Long Fei laughed loudly before turning around to look at the several thousand people in front of him. Cut the crap, isn't your goal your father? Since you want to make a move, then let's fight. Long Fei said, as his killing weapon took the initiative to appear. In the next second, he locked onto the members of the Lin clan. A great killing weapon, Earth. Rumble rumble rumble. This time, Long Fei did not use the God of Heaven fanaticism. However, he had used the power that he had obtained from the hands of the Lin family. Instantly, the earth shook, and rumbling sounds filled the air. With Long Fei's strength, it gave birth to boundless killing intent. Fire. Long Fei said again. On top of the killing weapon, another type of power erupted as a resplendent light flashed. Water. Wind. Swish swish. Yet another 2 surges of power. The entire killing weapon was glowing resplendently. At the same time, it also erupted with a destructive power. Earth, fire, water, wind. That's impossible. This is a secret technique of our Lin family. How could you learn it? Quick, stop him. Otherwise, the entire sect of Infinitors will no longer exist. Immediately, the expressions of the Lin clan members changed. At this moment, he was the clearest as to what kind of power this was. It was an area of effect attack. Once this power exploded, unless one was able to dodge it instantly, they would be shrouded and die without a doubt. In an instant, the 5 Emperor's successor moved. An extremely strong power surged through his entire body. Their inherited intelligence cards surged through the skies and gathered together in an instant. But at that moment, Li Yuanba, Li Wuxin, Zhong Yu, and especially the gentle Liu Luoshi made their moves at the same time. Haha, there's no need to stop my boss. We are your opponents. Let's fight. Li Yuanba laughed and took the initiative to attack. He randomly picked an opponent and punched out. One punch exploded with absolute power. There was no fluctuation in the energy of the holy source, but it seemed to have detected the essence of the energy. He moved as if it were light, moving at an extremely slow speed. In an instant, a punch had broken the concentration of energy in the surrounding area, then it locked onto a person and punched out once more. At the same time, Li Wuxin and the others also made their moves. Each of them picked a person to act and moved swiftly through the air. On the field, the little guy could no longer hold himself back. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Dad, I want to go too. With that, without waiting for Long Fei's consent, the small figure immediately flew out. Seeing that the little guy was about to attack, the maidservants behind him panicked. Little fellow, don't run around. I'll protect you. Instantly, the power of longevity erupted from Ya's body as it rumbled through the skies. Even the heaven and earth violently shook at this moment. It was as if the world was facing a Aya and it felt so shallow that it let out a loud rumble. And Long Fei did not stop them. Their cultivation was not weak, so Long Fei was not worried at all, rather, he focused more on the power in his hands. At this moment, the 4 types of power had already been gathered to the limit on the killing tool. Killing intent spread. This was exactly the result that Long Fei wanted to see. The faces of the people from the sect of Infinitors were all pale, the pain was unbearable. Just the aura alone was enough to cause their minds to tremble. The crowd was panicking as they frantically tried to escape. However, the entire mountain had been set down by the Lord of Primordial Chaos. Anyone who wanted to fly would be completely crushed by it. Boom, boom, boom. Countless people were running around randomly, but they couldn't get away. Haha, a bunch of useless brats. You want to blame them? Weakness is the biggest sin. Besides, if you don't have the strength to be a dog that bites, then you're even more guilty. No matter who you are, you will all die today. Saying that, Long Fei used his blade. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Rumble, rumble, rumble. 4 types of energy exploded from the blade. Mountains shattered, and the primal chaos reversed. It was like a desperate situation. As long as one was enveloped by the blade chi, they would instantly die. Puff, puff, puff. The sound shook the entire sect of Infinitors and they all fell to the ground with broken limbs and broken bones. The members of the Lin clan were already hiding in the air, gasping for breath. There was still fear in his eyes. At this moment, his heart was incomparably shocked. Soldiers do not use blood blades. A single slash can kill 1,000 people. The highest realm of a spiritual immortal is only this much. Just how did he do it? The members of the Lin clan stared on helplessly, thoughts of retreat sprouting in their eyes. 1,000 men were not stained with blood. 1,000 men were not stained with blood. The cold wind was blowing and the air was thick with blood. As for Long Fei, he closed his eyes, face full of enjoyment. He quietly waited. Ding. Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing sect of Infinitor's disciples. The reward is 10,000 experience points. Holy source S worth 0, striking value S 1 point. Ding ding ding, thousands of disciples. But this experience was pitifully little, only a few thousand people gave tens of millions of experience, and even Holy Source had no value at all. But it's not over yet. Ding. Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing sect of Infinitor's elder. You have received 40,000 experience points, 40,000 Holy Source points, and 1 striking value point. Ding. Another string. Several tens of elders had once again brought Long Fei less than 1 billion experience. However, that was the end of his voice. In the distance, the sect master of the sect of Infinitors was severely injured, but he still managed to avoid it in the end. However, his face was filled with grief. He was completely dumbfounded. Staring at the brutal scene in front of him, the reek of blood filled the air as he broke into tears. Long Fei, I will kill you. My sect of Infinitors. It's gone, it's all gone. The sect of Infinitors Lord cried. But there was no response. In the distance, the surrounding spectators all sighed. Sigh, I never thought that Long Fei would actually be so powerful. Look, I've already said it before. How can someone who can make the inheritors of the 6 great emperors not be awesome? Look at the sect of Infinitors. That was a famous sect just now. Now, there's only one commander. We cannot provoke them. This guy is not to be trifled with. In that moment, everyone turned their gaze away, to the point where they did not even dare look at Long Fei. As for Long Fei, his gaze was cold and detached. All of this was something that the sect of Infinitors brought onto herself. Since he had chosen to be a biting dog, he had to be prepared to be cooked to kill. Whiz. In a single step, Long Fei took a step forward, and within a few kilometers, he arrived in front of the sect of Infinitors' Lord. It seems. Your master does not take you seriously. Long Fei ridiculed. He intentionally ridiculed the other party. Undisguised. Regarding the behind sect of Infinitors' Lord, Long Fei had already guessed it. The reason why he was saying this now was for the sake of the Lord of Chaos. Long Fei, you're too presumptuous. The sect of Infinitors' Lord roared. His eyes were bloodshot and bloodshot. Impudent. So what if he was impudent? Do you have any objections? Long Fei did not have any scruples, and said forcibly, You. The sect of Infinitors' Lord pointed at Long Fei, but was unable to say a single word. Not impossible. He didn't dare to. In front of Long Fei, he really didn't have the qualifications to be arrogant. After saying just one more word, he was afraid that Long Fei would suddenly attack. Suddenly, a sense of sadness appeared in his heart. He looked up at the sky helplessly. It was as if they were waiting for someone to appear. However, aside from the overwhelming number of battle shadows, there was no other aura. Ha ha. Long Fei sneered. It was also at this time that the outcome of the battle in the void came to an end. The so-called successor of the 5 emperors was simply no match for him. Li Wuxin and the others directly refined the energy. It was a completely different concept when compared to obtaining the inheritance. The difference between the power of an emperor that he could unleash was extremely great. As for Li Yuanba, a pair of fists, he released even more power, looking down on the Zhu family generals who were fighting him, but they did not dare to fight against him, and were completely suppressed, their spears even broken. At this time, the entire sect of Infinitors was annihilated. The so-called 5 Emperors' successor did not even have the intention to continue fighting. He turned around and began to flee for his life. The members of the Jiyu family, under the power of the little guy and Yaya, also instantly lost their temper. He was completely toyed with by the little fellow. Boom. 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 The Jiyu family expert also wanted to leave, but the little guy wouldn't allow it. God of Underworld looked down at the world, his hands playing with the universe. It was all filled with the netherworld spiritual energy. Besides, he wasn't just standing there idly watching. A desire to protect. Even if the little fellow was very strong, it would still use all its strength to burst forth with the power of its longevity and protect the little fellow within. What was even stranger was the power of longevity and power of nether. It was incomparably savage. One kind of power was limitless life force, the other power was filled with an aura of death. The two types of attacks intersected. It was a life or death exchange. The limitless life force was for sure, but when it came to the Jiyu family's experts, it was taken away. The little guy's power was even more direct as he struck down with his palm. Endless death energy swirled around him, expelling the Jiyu family's experts' life force. Joining hands with Yari to fight the enemy, they complemented each other. The experts of the Jiyu family were tormented to the point that they were on the verge of death. Boom. In just a few moments, the Jiyu family expert had completely disappeared. Bones covered in skin, not even a sliver of life force remained in his body. Even his health point had become the last trace of blood. Threatening my dad, go to hell. The little guy was unwilling to let it go. In the end, he sent a slap over and it was over. Ding. Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing the Jiyu family's powerhouse. You have obtained 100 million experience points, 100,000 holy source points, and 1 striking value point. Ding. Congratulations player for obtaining Nether Underworld fire armor. Ding. Congratulations player for obtaining the Netherworld Fist. Ding. Congratulations player on obtaining Netherworld boots. Ding. Congratulations player for obtaining the Netherworld crown. Long Fei was startled, listening to the system prompt. He was slightly taken aback. This time, he actually dropped a set. Furthermore, impartiality was something that the little fellow could use. This is AF * King Welfare Baby. All the super artifact are awesome. Long Fei was extremely happy. He turned around and looked at Sect of Infinita's Lord. He couldn't let it go. Since the GU family's experts could explode, then these people might explode as well. After all, although the system was harsh on him, he still had some pride. Experience was only a small part of it, and it had to be compensated in other ways. Instantly, the killing intent in Long Fei's eyes erupted. Sect of Infinita's Lord's face changed. A look of panic appeared on his face. In this instant, he felt Long Fei's body emit a monstrous killing intent. He already knew that he was doomed. No, Long Fei. Don't kill me. I'm just a little kid. Let me go, I'll tell you more. I know who's after you. As long as you let me go, I'm willing to be your dog and bite back. Sect of Infinita's Lord started to beg for mercy. Panic filled his eyes as he prostrated himself on the floor. Wrong. First, I don't need a dog. 2. Behind you, even if you turn around, you will still be biting off more than you can chew. 3. A dog. Do you think you're qualified to negotiate with me? Long Fei said coldly. With a cold smile on his face, he took a step forward. But right at this moment, beyond the chaos, a pair of hands suddenly stretched out and stopped in front of Long Fei. Long Fei, enough. How far do you want it to go? His voice was mighty, and under his rage, it suffused the air with pressure. Supreme auras descended one after another. There was no need to think about it. Long Fei had already guessed who it was. Causing trouble? Who the hell messed with you? Now you've said enough. This matter was caused by them, and now that your father is making a move, you say it's enough. I said. Not enough. A single roar pierced through the sky. A single roar pierced through the sky. These two words were not enough to fully express Long Fei's attitude. So what if it was the Celestial Emperor? And it wasn't even one of the Lord of Chaos's dogs. Even the Lord of Primal Chaos, Long Fei, was already prepared to clash with him head-on. At the same time, following after the end of the word, Long Fei also did not pay any attention to her either. The explosion of a rank 8 attack directly shattered the world. Moreover, his fists did not fall. Punch after punch was thrown out. Bang bang. There was no difference. Even the palm of the Celestial Emperor instantly collapsed. At the same time, another sword fell from the sky. It was incomparably sharp. It was as if the sharp aura of heaven and earth was condensed into a sword. Sword of the Emperor, descend. The voice of the Celestial Emperor sounded out once again, and at the same time, a venerable one appeared in the air. The supreme and unparalleled, incomparably revered. This was a throne bestowed by the heavens, one with the heavens and one with the earth. Even though the Lord of the Chaos was a special figure, no one dared to break the rules set down by him. The Celestial Emperor could be the only surprise. Rumble. Chaos shattered, the Celestial Emperor soared through the skies, a golden sword at his side. At this moment, streams of Emperor's Dao aura were gushing out from it. With a wave of his hand, he transformed into a stream of sword chi that descended violently. In the blink of an eye, countless sword chi split apart the primal chaos and formed a policy, heading straight for Long Fei. Long Fei's eyes were cold. The killing weapon had already appeared in his hand. Celestial Emperor was no ordinary figure. Long Fei dared to underestimate him. After all, this was a position bestowed by the heavens in the unknown region of the primal chaos, and it was supported by some sort of special power. However, even so, it was impossible to make Long Fei retreat. Facing the Heavenly Emperor, Long Fei did not retreat even after risking his life in battle last time. Now that his cultivation had risen, he wouldn't cower in fear either. Instantly, Long Fei moved. Earth, fire, water, wind. Kill. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The moment the saber came out, 4 types of power instantly swept out. Long Fei, Do you think that your 7th level of the ancient era is enough to contend against this emperor? Not last time, and not this time either. Sword of the Emperor's Tao, appear. Shua shua shua. The sword beam shot into the sky, clashing with Long Fei's blade. Boom. All of a sudden, the entire primal chaos mountain once again rumbled and shook violently. The sword light instantly transformed into 10 million sword lights. The skies above the mountain of primal chaos were crisscrossed with each other to form a world of blade energy. Long Fei's figure was also submerged within. Father. The little guy's eyes were filled with anxiety. He wanted to rush out regardless of anything else, but was stopped by Yu Ru. Don't worry, your father will definitely be fine. Yu Ru comforted him. However, there was a slight tremble in his voice. Li Yuanba, Li Wuxin, and the rest were also staring intently at Long Fei, who was trapped by the sword qi, their faces full of excitement. He couldn't wait to make a move. However, they knew that the power of a heavenly emperor was not something that they could compare with. At this time, if they made a move, they would be causing trouble for Long Fei. Not only would they not be able to help Long Fei, they would even drag him down. All of them could only endure it and stare at the battlefield with bloodshot eyes. In the distance, Sect of Infinita's Lord and the Zhu family's Lin family member heaved a sigh of relief. If it wasn't for the arrival of the Celestial Emperor, they definitely wouldn't have been able to escape death. Long Fei was too tyrannical. Their level of power was completely beyond their imagination. They originally thought that they understood everything about Long Fei, but now it seemed that it was just the tip of the iceberg. So close, I didn't expect this kid's foundation to be so deep. Before the killing move was even unleashed, it had already completely defeated us. Right, looks like we can only rely on the Celestial Emperor. The Lin clan and the Zhu clan members looked at each other as they spoke. Their figures moved, concealing themselves in the mountain of primal chaos. Only the Sect of Infinita's Lord was extremely excited, as if he had been injected with chicken blood. Ha ha ha, die, die. You reckless fool still dares to talk back to the Celestial Emperor? Heaven Emperor is a heavenly emperor. You, a mere trash, actually dared to challenge the might of the heavens. Your death is not worthy of lament. I'll see how you die this time. Sect of Infinita's Lord laughed crazily. It was almost crazed. But in the next moment, the smile on his face froze. He looked at the sight in front of him with disbelief. No, impossible. How is this possible? How could you be unharmed under the attack of the Heavenly Emperor? I don't believe it, I don't believe it. Ah, Lord Heavenly Emperor, save me. In a moment, the Sect of Infinita's Lord screamed in pain as his body continuously lashed out with his hind legs. And in front of him, Long Fei's figure had already appeared amidst the sword images that filled the sky. The killing weapon was placed in front of his chest and immediately turned into a shield, isolating all of the sword images. Yell. Do you think that just because your master came out, you are awesome? What I don't know is that the Celestial Emperor in your eyes is just a dog in front of me. If he's really that awesome, then what was he doing when I destroyed the Heavenly Empire? When Laozi destroyed his Heavenly Emperor Palace, where was he? Long Fei said as he walked forward, step by step. When his voice fell, he had already appeared in front of the Sect of Infinita's Lord. KCHA. The foot landed. The Sect of Infinita's master's entire body sunk into the ground. He spat out a mouthful of blood and could not stop. You. Sect of Infinita's Lord's eyes were filled with unwillingness, wanting to say something. Unfortunately, there was no more aura left. Then, his neck tilted and he died. Even his soul was squashed by Long Fei, and easily shattered. Ding. Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing Sect of Infinita's Lord. You have obtained 70,000 experience, 70,000 holy source points, and 1 striking value. The system notification popped up. However, the set that Long Fei had imagined did not burst out. He couldn't help but feel slightly disappointed. Striking value, release, Long Fei said solemnly, without hesitation. The accumulation of striking value was very easy to use, but it was rarely used. Long Fei had originally planned to use it when facing the boss. However, now that the Heavenly Emperor had made his move, it would be unrealistic for him to want all of them to stay. Except for the fact that he was going to ignore the Lord of the Chaos and directly flame at the Celestial Emperor. But now was not the time. Therefore, Long Fei chose to use his striking value to explode on the sect of Infinitor's Lord's body. Ding! Congratulations player on obtaining Extinction Sword. Ding! Congratulations player for obtaining the Sky Sovereign Seal. Ding! Congratulations player for obtaining the Sky Spear. Ding! Congratulations player for obtaining the Rotten Tablet. Ding! Congratulations player for obtaining the Book of Life. When the system's voice fell, Long Fei was unable to calm down for a long time. This time, it was too crazy. Last time it was just a suit. But this time, he actually dropped his 6 Emperor armor, which completely exceeded Long Fei's expectations. Haha, great. With these, their combat power will rise to another level. Long Fei laughed crazily in his heart. In his heart, he was even faintly thanking the Celestial Emperor. If not for the Sky Emperor personally making a move, killing the sect of Infinitor's Lord would not have been difficult at all, and it would not have been possible for it to explode like this. But on the surface, Long Fei would never say that. Sky Emperor, are you still going to attack? This time, you won't be able to protect sect of Infinitors as dogs. Next time, I can guarantee you won't be able to protect the 2 pieces of trash from the divine space either. Pride, disregard. Pride, disregard. So what if you're sitting high up in the altar? You can't even protect the people I kill. He sneered coldly, his voice filled with endless ridicule. Long Fei raised his head and looked at the Heavenly Emperor, his eyes filled with contempt. He didn't care at all. In the air, the face of the Celestial Emperor, who was sitting on the throne, turned red, as he was unable to contain his anger. With a casual wave of his hand, multiple layers of chaotic clouds collapsed, shaking the void. Long Fei. The Celestial Emperor said solemnly. Grandpa is here. Long Fei said. It was still insanity, and even the Celestial Emperor wouldn't let Long Fei restrain himself. The anger in the Heavenly Emperor's eyes burned. He stared straight at Long Fei, waves after waves of killing intent brewed on his body, and the overflowing hatred turned into killing intent, enveloping downwards. However, it was completely useless against Long Fei. He wanted to kill Long Fei, and Long Fei wanted to kill him too. The moment his killing intent exploded, Long Fei immediately reacted, releasing the killing aura from the killing weapon, which instantly disappeared. Immediately, the Heavenly Emperor's pupils constricted, and he blocked Long Fei in private. Just what did he experience? How could he suddenly become so strong? The Celestial Emperor thought uneasily. In just a few short days, he actually was somewhat unable to see through Long Fei. He had been like an ant, killing and seizing everything with a single thought. But now, his sword of the Great Way of the Emperor actually did not harm Long Fei in the slightest. No, I have to die. If this child doesn't die, he will definitely become a great disaster in the future. The Sky Emperor thought to himself as he glanced at Long Fei, before he suddenly turned around. At the same time, those people hiding behind the back of the Celestial Emperor also left. Even the Heavenly Emperor had left. Who would still dare be arrogant in front of Long Fei? Long Fei did not move. When the Heavenly Emperor's aura completely disappeared, Long Fei then secretly heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, his eyes darkened and he fainted. Instantly, Liu Luoshi took a big stride forward and caught him. After the endless primordial chaos, the Lord of Chaos retracted his gaze. Go ahead and kill them. The entire primal chaos region should have been cleaned up long ago. However, that isn't enough. Wait until blood spreads throughout the entire primal chaos mountain. Only then will I be able to be proud and arrogant. Emperor Xian, foreign powerhouse, Long Batian, and that woman. When my true self returns, I will make sure that there will never be a peaceful day for all the realms. The Lord of the Chaos was hysterical, and his every word was filled with a monstrous hatred. It was also at this time The entire primal chaos heavens suddenly darkened. The blood-red clouds covered the entire mountain. Rumble. The entire primal chaos mountain was in an uproar. It was as if there was something suppressing this mountain and it was trying to break free. Instantly, the divine senses of the powerhouse started to scan the area. In the blink of an eye, waves of wails and howls could be heard from all directions. It was as if these things were not to be coveted or spied upon. Fortunately, this change did not last long. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared. Therefore, the change this time did not attract too much attention. The only thing they thought was that Long Fei had killed too many people, which resulted in the Lord of Primal Chaos's displeasure. Imperceptibly, Long Fei carried another big blame. However, at this time, Long Fei was completely unaware of everything. The current him was extremely weak. What should we do? Long Fei's aura is getting weaker and weaker. Liu Luosh's face showed incomparable hesitation, his eyes were swollen from crying. No, definitely not. Who can hurt father when he's so strong? Uncles, little aunties, quickly make your move. Save my father. The little fellows kneeled down one by one, and their foreheads were smacked with blood. The little guy controls the power of Nether. He could clearly feel that the vitality on Long Fei's body was constantly decreasing. Even if Yari were to continuously use the energy of her longevity to replenish it, it would be useless. Almost every second, Long Fei's body would release a deathly aura. Puff. Ya coughed out a mouthful of blood, but was powerless to continue. Boss. Li Yuanbar was flabbergasted, his eyes turned red. How is this possible? He has gone through so many difficulties, and was clearly fine before. How did he become like this all of a sudden? Li Yuanbar was almost going crazy. His entire body was also in a berserk state, releasing the power of his berserk mode. Calm down, Yuan Ba, calm down. Something must have happened that we don't know about. The Heavenly Emperor's Sword of the Way simply wasn't able to harm Long Fei at all. We simply do not know what happened. If we act rashly, it might affect Long Fei. As he spoke, his face turned pale. Instantly, everyone looked over. The little fellow's eyes lit up. Second mother, have you deduced something? The little fellow hurriedly asked. However, Yuro shook her head. I didn't manage to deduce anything. It's as if the power of the sky spill has touched upon a force that cannot be desecrated. Even I was struck by the backlash. However, I am certain that Long Fei is all right. All we can do now is wait. Wait for Long Fei to wake up. Yuru had a determined look on her face. Instantly, everyone in the room went silent and looked at Long Fei in unison. At this moment, in a world of confusion and infinity, Long Fei was frantically trying to break through. Boom, boom, boom. Again and again. As if he did not know exhaustion, Long Fei violently waved his fist. However, every time he did so, he would return empty-handed. The energy from the explosion would disappear without a trace like a clay ox entering the sea. The heck, what kind of place is this? Long Fei was extremely depressed. After the Heavenly Emperor's figure disappeared, Long Fei relaxed. However, he was suddenly dragged into this world by a huge pulling force. In fact, Long Fei could feel that his main body's energy was also disappearing non-stop. Who is it? Who exactly is it? Long Fei roared. Brat, stop screaming. The last time I let you go, if it wasn't for me, you would have already become a dead man. Now, it's time for you to repay me. Suddenly, a voice rang out. Suddenly, Long Fei tensed up. This voice was too familiar. It was too intimidating, as though the words were stuck in his throat, causing Long Fei's mind to instantly quiver. Long Batian. As expected, you are still here. Long Fei muttered to himself, his eyes cold. When they had destroyed the Heavenly Emperor Palace, he had already noticed Long Batian's little trick, but because of the qualification battles, he did not take it to heart. Who would have thought that he would fall here today? Kid, you are in a very dangerous situation. I don't dare to communicate with you in the outside world. I can only drag you into my Wanxiang realm. Long Batian's voice sounded again. And extremely weak. Even without saying a single word, he still felt a sense of doom. What do you mean? Long Fei did not believe him and remained on his guard. The Lord of all Fiends' goal isn't that simple. Do you think that the person before you is the Lord of all Fiends? Long Batian said, his voice carried a bit of hatred. Not the Lord of Chaos? Long Fei was shocked, his heart instantly turned cold. Endless viciousness, bone-blood chills. Endless viciousness, bone-blood chills. Long Batian's words gave rise to thousands of guesses in his heart. It was as if he had been covered by an endless amount of schemes. His heart trembled. That's impossible. If it wasn't for the Lord of Primordial Chaos, how could it have possessed such tremendous power? Long Fei asked. Long Batian's words were simply too inconceivable. In this world, there are countless powerhouses. Do you think you're so awesome now? The difference is too great. There's also that Heaven Emperor from before, that dogshit of a Heavenly Emperor's position. It's merely the source energy that Laozi absorbed in order to expel the people from the outside world. Long Batian said with extreme disdain. But after he finished speaking, his voice suddenly disappeared. Even the entire space was unstable. It seemed to consume a huge amount of energy. Long Fei's eyes lit up. He didn't care too much who the Lord of Chaos was. If he couldn't figure it out, Long Fei didn't want to waste his brain cells. On the other hand, after Long Batian threw up all over, Long Fei took this opportunity. He punched out. It was facing the weakest link in this space. Boom. Asterisk rumble rumble rumble. Long Fei seemed to have exploded with almost all of his strength. Unfortunately, it was useless. The immense rebound made Long Fei fall to the ground once again. Damn, how stubborn. In Long Fei's eyes, there was unwillingness, and he was about to attack again. But in this instant, the entire Wanxiang world began to change. The boundless space began to shrink, almost to the point that one could see it with the naked eye. In just an instant, it had already shrunk to the size of a circumference of 10,000 kilometers. The naked eye can see all the contours. Immediately, Long Fei was stupefied. As the space continued to shrink, the pressure grew stronger and stronger. It was as though this entire space was a small plane. However, in this world, his own power was like an ant among ants. Just his aura was enough to kill him. Long Batian, what are you trying to do? In that moment, Long Fei became anxious and asked coldly. What is it? Brat, did you forget that I said I wanted to take something from you? Long Batian said. His voice was laced with killing intent. Long Fei's heart tensed up, his pupils constricted, as he surveyed his surroundings, full of vigilance. He was certain that Long Batian was definitely in this space. In fact, it was right in front of him. However, he wasn't able to notice it. However, Long Batian didn't speak anymore after that sentence, which made Long Fei feel a little relaxed. With a determined mind, Long Fei opened his mouth and said, Long Batian, let's get straight to the point. The current you probably doesn't have the ability to reap anything from me. Otherwise, you don't need to drag me into your Wanxiang realm at this time. Long Fei said. Who is Long Batian, the #1 powerhouse? If it was really Director Gu something first, he wouldn't have asked so politely. There must be a reason why he dragged Long Fei into this space. As expected, Long Batian immediately became silent. And this also showed that Long Fei was right. Long Fei was not in a rush, and in his heart, he was even more certain of his guess. After a while, Long Batian opened his mouth. You're right, my current strength is indeed insufficient to deal with you. But the words just now weren't alarmist. The current you, one step wrong, you will never be able to recover. Long Batian said this in an extremely serious tone. Long Fei's expression suddenly became serious. To be able to make Long Batian say the words beyond redemption, how violent must the power he faced must be? Is it that serious? Long Fei asked. He had always known that his appearance was dangerous. The Celestial Emperor, the Lord of the Chaos, every single one of them was a potential threat. However, it was never treated as an insurmountable existence. After all, he had his own back to rely on. At most, He would just be tough. But now, he heard Long Baishan's words. Long Fei started to hesitate. Deep in thought. Because now, his brothers, his women, and even his children. They were all on the primal Chaos Mountain. If something unexpected were to happen, even if he died, Long Fei would not forgive himself. Yes, and more serious than you think. Long Baishan's words resonated. The current Lord of Primordial Chaos is not his true body at all. It is just a thought left behind after his death in battle, the embodiment of cultivation, an incomplete existence that has gone through the ages of time and space. As he spoke, the entire spatial pattern fluctuated, and a blurry figure gradually appeared. Long Fei was instantly attracted, his eyes locking onto her, and even becoming nervous. But Long Batian did not mind, and continued, "There is no mistake about this. The so-called qualification battles are only controlled by him." His goal was to let the blood of countless powerhouse splatter all over this primal chaos mountain, fusing his already withered real face with the primal chaos and breaking out from the earth. Long Batian said, "Are you talking about the true form of the Lord of Primordial Chaos at the foot of the mountain?" Long Fei was shocked at first, but soon after, he became ecstatic. If what Long Batian said was true, he had been so powerful just by cultivating with a single thought. He had been in charge of this for so many years, as well as the qualification battles and the 13 emperors. All of that was for the sake of regaining his physical body. Then how strong was his physical body? If he could obtain this power. Instantly, Long Fei's mind was flooded with thoughts. Brat, stop daydreaming. The current you, even if it's the corpse of the primal chaos, will be able to annihilate you in an instant. Long Batian showed no mercy, and directly ridiculed him. Don't say it's that awesome. If it's really that powerful, then who in this chaotic world can stop him from breaking out from the earth? Long Fei said, although he agreed with Long Baishan's words, he did not want to show weakness. He's just that awesome. How could you imagine the people of the ancient world? Long Batian continued to belittle him. It was as if Long Fei was just a country bumpkin who didn't know anything, a mountain villager walking into a big city for the first time. What are you talking about? Since I'm already so powerful, I'll just wait for my death. The reason you pulled me in was to tell me that I don't have to struggle anymore. Can I just wait for my death now? Long Fei's anger rose. He just could not stand Long Baishan's attitude. It was as if the ancient world was their grandpa and they were all their grandsons. If he was given enough time, who would beat him to death? Hey! Long Batian stared blankly, completely unaware of the fact that Long Fei was not giving him any face at all. However, he didn't care too much about it. After all, he had been by Long Fei's side for a long time. He was very clear about Long Fei's temper. Alright, let's cut the crap. Long Fei, I know that you have a method that allows you to kill people above your level. But, with your current level, it's still not enough. There is only one way to solve this dilemma. That means I have reached the level of Paragon. Only in this way would it be possible to prevent the Lord of Chaos from breaking through the mountain and resolving the current situation. You can only go further. Long Batian said in a serious tone. Ancient Secret World, Ju Mountain. Ancient Secret World, Ju Mountain. Emperor Xian, who was in closed-door training, opened his eyes. The competition for the God of Boundary is finally about to begin. This time, it's my chance. I want to use my own blood to establish my name. What is true invincibility? What Long Batian? What Master of Primal Chaos? They have all given me a stepping stone to invincible ancient world. I am the only one who is eternal. With that, the Emperor Xian stood up and looked down the Ju Mountains, at the ashes that had long since ceased to exist, his eyes filled with disdain. He then moved his hands and tore open the space. The primordial chaos. The endless primordial chaos. The Lord of Primordial Chaos's face changed as well. He stared at the air above the ancient world, changing constantly. Emperor Xian? Damn it, why did you come back at this time? I hope you won't disturb my affairs. However, that's unlikely. The unknown is vast and boundless. I have the endless primal chaos method, so it's not a big deal to stop him. Furthermore, that person should not agree to allow Emperor Xian to enter into an unknown place. No matter how strong he is, he's just a dog from outside this region. He shouldn't be crazy enough to stop me. In a few days, as long as I wait for a few more days, the chaotic mountain will be a river of blood, and great events can occur at any time. After saying that, the Lord of Primal Chaos's gaze immediately locked onto Long Fei. Instantly, he couldn't sit still any longer. What about the soul? Impossible, how could he be dying? The Heavenly Emperor's power can't hurt him at all. No, he can't die. He is the key to this situation. Without his power, how would I be able to break through the primal chaos mountain? In the blink of an eye, the Lord of Primordial Chaos disappeared. In the next moment, it landed right where Long Fei was. Boom! The huge fluctuation of energy made the faces of Li Yuanba and the others change. Almost instinctively, he protected Long Fei in the middle. The Lord of Primordial Chaos? Yu Ru took the lead, blocking the Lord of all Fiends' path. Has a problem, with your means, you can't save him at all. Let me do it. The Lord of Chaos panted, his eyes blood-red. The aura on his body fluctuated. He appeared to be extremely unsettled. Or perhaps, the current him, was no longer able to remain calm. Long Fei was the key to breaking through, and now he was actually on the verge of death. How could he maintain his calm under these circumstances? In that moment, Yu Ru and the others hesitated. They never thought that the Lord of Primal Chaos would be able to see through Long Fei's wrongdoings with a single sentence. In the blink of an eye, it was difficult to make a decision. Because they were truly helpless to do anything. In comparison, the Lord of the Primal Chaos was more likely to save Long Fei. But right at this moment, an aura instantly erupted from Long Fei's body. The aura of death vanished and endless life force surged. It was so thick that it felt like Long Fei himself was a moving spring of life. Even the people guarding beside him felt incomparably comfortable. Ha ha ha, Senior, you are too courteous. I was just joking with my woman. I didn't expect that even you would be alarmed. Long Fei laughed loudly. As for the reason why he was addressed as Senior, it was naturally because of the ancient jade pendant. Even though Long Fei still had not figured out how his grandfather could be related to the Lord of Primal Chaos. But it was called that. At the very least, he would be able to dispel the suspicions of the other party. Indeed, the eyes of the Lord of Primal Chaos slightly moved, staring at Long Fei without saying a word. At this moment, he was also puzzled. He had clearly felt that Long Fei was already about to die and that his soul was not present. But at this moment, he woke up. Not only that, even his aura was stronger than before. Still, the Lord of all Fiends maintained his calm. Without saying anything, he turned around and left. It was only until his figure disappeared that a thought came to him from the void. Long Fei, don't disappoint me. You should know what you're carrying. The reason I revealed your identity was to put pressure on you. Before the qualification battles begin, I hope you can become stronger. The Lord of Primal Chaos's voice transmitted into Long Fei's ears, word for word. If it was before, Long Fei might have doubted it. But now, everything was clear. No matter how much the Lord of Primordial Chaos did, it was all for the things at the foot of the mountain. Since that was the case, how could Long Fei allow him to do as he pleased? Old fox, you're still pretending? If it wasn't for Long Batian, this daddy here might have been played by you, old thing, as a fool. Long Fei thought. However, there was no change on his face. He wasn't prepared to speak of this matter. Rather than sending his brothers and women into a panic, it would be better for him to carry it alone. As for leaving, it was even more impossible. Right now, the entire chaotic mountain was under the control of the Lord of Primordial Chaos. Every single movement of his would affect the other side's mental state. If they really left, they would be surrounded by the Lord of Primal Chaos within a few breaths of time. Strength. Strength. A paragon. Still 3 levels away. Long Shi's eyes became serious as he clenched his fists. At the same time, Liu Luoshi and the rest also approached. Hubby, are you all right? Yeah, hubby, you scared us to death just now. Liu Luoshi and Yu Ru spoke up one after the other, endless care and concern in their eyes. Haha, how could anything happen to me? I'm just joking with you guys. Long Fei said casually. Dad, what kind of technique is this? It's so strange. I feel that after your death, the aura on your body has become stronger. The little guy moved into Long Fei's embrace and asked with a puzzled expression. Father will teach you when there's a chance. However, right now, the qualification battles are about to begin. Dad will also have to go into seclusion for a few days. I believe that no one will come and cause trouble for you in the next few days. Long Fei said. Time was of the essence. Long Fei didn't have any more time to wait. Gentle as it was good to have a deep fatherly love. If the Lord of all Fiends was able to succeed in his scheme, then all of this would cease to exist. Therefore, Long Fei had to level up. After that, Long Fei gave the 6 Emperor armor to the 6 of them and threw the big killing weapon to Li Yuanba. Yuan Ba, the killing weapon is as you wish, familiarize yourself with it. Long Fei said. Boss, that won't do. If you give me that killing tool, what do you want? Li Yuanba did not accept and immediately shook his head. Don't worry, you've been with me for so long. Have you seen me lacking magical equipment before? Long Fei smiled mysteriously. They waited for the crowd to disperse. Long Fei called out to Yu Ru and Liu Luoshi. The two ladies instantly blushed. Needless to say, he could already guess what Long Fei was planning. Ha ha, it's better to be separated from your family for a little while. Today, your husband will eat everything. Long Fei laughed out wildly, casually waved his hand, and pulled the two girls into his embrace. Then, the lights dimmed and they all fell asleep together. That night, Long Fei tossed and turned the entire night. He finally experienced how blissful it was to have a woman with the strength of Emperor Yang Tian. A fox spirit was ever-changing, and it wanted to seduce people even more. In short, this night, Long Fei enjoyed all the blessings of his nature and it rained on Wu Mountain the whole night. The next morning, after the two girls left, Long Fei immediately went into closed-door cultivation. Long Fei's eyes moved, he said, Long Batian, let's begin. Wanxiang Heaven and Earth, Wanxiang Heaven and Earth. Wanxiang Heaven and Earth, Wanxiang Heaven and Earth. This was Long Batian's sacred art. What he had was not only eternal strength. When he was here, all of ancient world's power was blank. All the powers of the world's Wanxiang were within his control. And his power was the ruler of all things in the world. It was the only thing in the world. With just a thought, all sorts of images gathered. It became a divine ability. The Wanxiang world. Kid, have you made up your mind? Long Batian asked. Still somewhat hesitating, he looked at Long Fei. Stop bullshitting, aren't you waiting for me the same thing? If I'm not strong, do you think you still have a chance? Long Fei said. Long Batian's hesitation made him feel pain in the ass. No matter what, he was ancient world's #1 powerhouse, what was there to be afraid of? I was just afraid that you wouldn't be able to bear it. Afterwards, I once again cut off my hope. Long Batian said. Just as Long Fei wanted to speak, he found that he was no longer able to speak. The world in front of his eyes had undergone earth-shattering changes. Rumbling filled the air. The world began to change. The stars were as though they were being updated. Everything returned to the ancient era, and the aura surged like tides. Long Fei was stunned. Looking at the ever-changing scene before him, he grew excited. This was too crazy. Everything was completely different from what Long Fei had experienced. From the God's martial continent onwards, Long Fei had been refreshed with his worldview countless of times. But compared to everything else, it was just a small kiss. There was no way to compare. Everything before Long Fei made him feel like an ant. The mountains were overlapping, and each of them was hundreds of thousands of kilometers high. This made Long Fei truly feel it. The feeling of the hand being able to pluck stars. As for the enormous planet, it was even more visible. He could feel waves of coldness from his hand. "Kid, are you ready? My sacred art can only be triggered once. If you don't pursue the true meaning of the ancient times, then your power will be enhanced once more. In fact, I might even allow you to undergo a metamorphosis from the very beginning to the very end, planting a foundation of the great Tao to condense your own strength. Remember, I'm talking about my own power," Long Batian said with an incomparably firm voice. And at this moment, Long Fei's heart began to tremble from the distance. Looking at Long Batian, the expression in his eyes changed slightly. His own strength. These 5 words, to Long Fei, were simply something that he had always desired. Strength. Powerful. He himself. This was what Long Fei had always desired. He had previously cultivated with the elder swordsman for a period of time. At that time, Long Fei truly felt the uniqueness of his own strength. However, he couldn't keep up with the enemy because of his own strength. You can only rely on the system. But now, Long Batian's words ignited hope in Long Fei's heart once again. Ancient world, the root of the Great Way. Since it was the root, it would bear fruit in the future. This was his chance. In that case, what was formed was naturally his Tao fruit. Instantly, Long Fei got excited. It was as if he had been injected with chicken blood. His eyes were bloodshot and filled with madness. "Come on, cut the crap. I don't believe that the ancient world is so awesome that he could kill me. If you don't die, then die," Long Fei bellowed, his eyes filled with determination. At the same time, Long Batian was also infuriated by Long Fei's attitude, causing the entire Wanxiang heaven and earth to change. Mountains rose up from the ground. It was as if every mountain was a world. One world. A continent. Crack, crack, crack. It began to split apart violently, breaking up into countless pieces, causing the space around it to begin to rapidly drop down. This is. A plane was separated. Instantly, Long Fei's head hurt. An inexhaustible pressure assaulted his face. A single mountain was separated into countless planes. What about stars? What about Wang Yong? A lucky chance. This is definitely a lucky chance. Long Fei was extremely excited. He finally understood why Long Batian kept asking him questions. Because of this lucky chance, it had never happened before in history. Simply put, it was likely that such a fortuitous encounter was something that even Long Batian himself yearned for. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Fission continues. Even though it was only a sacred art, Long Fei was still shocked. Just as he had guessed, the stars in the sky also began to change. They turned into thousands of stars, and it was as if the heavens and the earth were split open as they turned into the stars in the sky. The entire process happened extremely quickly, so quickly that it surpassed Long Fei's imagination. It was completed in the space of a few breaths. Long Fei opened his eyes and remained motionless, afraid to miss every detail. At this moment, he did not use any of the system's power. Relying entirely on his own eyes to capture, he would engrave everything he saw into his mind. Even his hands were constantly moving, as if he was lecturing the changes in the Wanxiang world and imitating some sort of trajectory. In the blink of an eye, time vanished. Long Fei was also completely immersed in this state. Completely addicted. His entire being seemed to have become incomparably ancient. His face also became unshaven, and his hair began to grow at a speed visible to the naked eye, then it turned white. Blue hair. In the blink of an eye. It was as if Long Fei had completely merged with the Wanxiang world as it changed. Becoming a part of the Wanxiang Adept's world, following the other party's changes. Somewhere. Long Batian looked at everything that was happening in front of him and was extremely shocked. He actually has this kind of comprehension ability. I never would have thought that you would be the one to achieve it. However, it's not that easy to obtain my things. This time, if you are unable to overcome the obstacle before you, don't blame me for taking this from you. Long Batian's pupils contracted as a bright light flashed, and he spoke word by word. Regarding all of this, Long Fei did not detect anything. He was still on his own. His entire body seemed to have fallen into a stupor as he stood there majestically without moving. And at this time, the entire Wanxiang heaven and earth. The rate of change was already extremely slow. The number of stars could no longer be counted. Countless mountains and rivers had turned into countless plains. The levels were clear. Order. And right at the very top was the ancient world. Long Fei himself was like a spectator, living his time alone outside this world. So it turned out to be. This is the very beginning of ancient world. The myriad worlds, myriad worlds, myriad worlds, and myriad planes were actually formed in this manner. Long Fei muttered as he woke up from his petrification. Slowly, he opened his eyes. In an instant, a ray of light shot out from his eyes. Brilliant heaven and earth. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Crack, crack, crack. Instantly, the entire Wanxiang world seemed to be on the verge of being shattered as it was seen through by Long Fei with a single glance. Even Long Fei himself did not know this, but it was as if the entire ancient world was contained within his eyes as all sorts of changes occurred and were reflected in them. At the same time, within the pubes, a black profound bead deeply rooted itself inside. Countless ancient auras were being emitted from it. Damn, this thing. Could it be the Great Way's root that Long Batian mentioned? Long Fei's eyes lit up, he could not wait to understand more. But right at this moment, a wave of dizziness hit him. The Wanxiang heaven and the earth shattered. When his consciousness returned, Long Fei sat up once again. When his consciousness returned, Long Fei sat up once again. Instantly, a sense of desolation was emitted from his body. It was like an endless baptism of space-time. Returning to its original nature. Whiz! A pillar of light shot into the sky. The entire primal chaos mountain was in a state of unrest. Was that where Long Fei was training in seclusion? Could it be that he broke through again? Impossible, it's definitely not him. This feeling of time is too strong. Could it be that he has refined ancient emperor's power? It's possible. With so many of the great emperor's heirs gathered around him, there might be some super treasure that can create the power of the great emperor. Countless people began to speculate. This is a sensitive time. Long Fei was also a sensitive person that everyone was wary of. Every single movement of his would affect the thoughts of the crowd. Within the heavenly emperor palace, the celestial emperor stood up abruptly. His face was filled with terror, his eyes were wide open in anger, and disbelief was written all over his face. The power of the ancient era, how could it possibly erupt here? The heavenly emperor was furious. He looked at the place where Long Fei was at and clenched his fists. Lifeless, go and probe him. Remember, you must not make a move. Long Fei can't die yet. The celestial emperor muttered to himself. Yes, I have no orders. Li Wuming said as he lowered his head. With a cold smile on his face, he turned around and left. And at this time, Long Fei who had opened his eyes. It was even more violent. 2F** King excited. His cultivation level had actually risen directly. Ding, congratulations player leveled up, current level 8 ancient power, experience 0600000000. It was definitely an unexpected gain. Long Fei did not expect this either. He actually leveled up just like that. Awesome, the root of the great Tao. To think that the change in my strength could affect the system. The 8th level of the ancient era, I'm only 2 levels away. Long Fei's eyes were firm. He was only 2 levels away from becoming a paragon. Since the dragon stall said so, they definitely wouldn't shoot without reason. This meant that this time, the Lord of all Fiends was going to have a major setup. There was absolutely no way he could break through after becoming a paragon. But now, only a few days remained. Too hasty. Boss, you. Right at this time, Li Yuanba was the first to reach Long Fei's secluded cultivation. Seeing how Long Fei's aura became stronger. Damn, boss, you actually managed to break through another level in 2 days? Awesome. Li Yuanba laughed out loud. Regarding Long Fei's rocket leveling, Li Yuanba was already used to it. However, This was the first time he had seen one that could level up just by closing the gates. Immediately after, Li Wuxin, Zhong Yu, Liu Luoshi and the rest arrived. The first time he saw Long Fei, it was shock. He was stunned. Especially the little guy and the two women, their eyes were filled with warmth as they looked at Long Fei. Dad, these 2 days of closed-door cultivation, it's like you've become a completely different person. The little guy circled Long Fei with a face full of doubt. What did it look like? Long Fei asked. Yes. I can't say, but I feel a very ancient, grand and ethereal aura coming from you. The little guy said in all seriousness. Following that, Liu Luoshi and the rest all nodded their heads. Long Fei smiled mysteriously. Naturally, he did not say much about the root of the Great Tao. It wasn't that they didn't trust the other party, but this matter had been implicated too much. If they were to say it out loud, the other party would definitely overthink it. These are all secondary. Do you know whose boss I am and whose husband I am? Long Fei pretended to be relaxed. Also, let's see whose dad you're talking about. The little fellow added. That's right, I am the peerless father of dragons, how can I not be strong? We, father and son, are invincible. Long Fei said. Before his voice fell, Long Fei's brows twitched as he looked into the distance. 100 miles away, a silhouette flickered, disappearing in the blink of an eye. However, in the next moment, he took a step closer. It was also at this time that Li Wuxin stepped forward, and his aura exploded. Li Wuming. Li Wuxin said with a deep tone, his eyes slightly narrowing. He was too familiar with this aura. This was the Li family's aura of extermination. Li Wuming's figure approached them step by step. In just a few breaths of time, he had arrived in front of them. Li Wuming, what are you doing here? Li Wuxin asked. His killing intent filled the air. Aside from Li Wuming, the entire Li family had been annihilated. Moreover, Li Wuxin did not believe that Li Wuming would not know it was them. Thus, Li Wuming's appearance at this time was extremely unusual. What is it? TSK, there is no need to worry. It would not be a few days before I kill you. Just to tell you a piece of information. Li Wuming said in disdain. As he spoke, he changed the subject and continued, the 5 Emperor's successor has already been placed under the command of the Celestial Emperor. Furthermore, the divine space will also send its current genius disciples to participate in the battle. You pieces of trash, are you ready to die? Li Wuming was extremely arrogant and commanding. Damn, he's so arrogant. Dad, let me teach him how to conduct himself. The little guy stood up and crossed his hands. God of Underworld's power instantly exploded outwards. However, he was stopped by Long Fei. If you only came to provoke me, then congratulations, very successful. If it's the Celestial Emperor who sent you to probe, then I'm very sorry. I never look at my master when I hit a dog. Instantly, Long Fei moved. Within the pubes, the black seed moved. It spun madly. Subsequently, an extremely mysterious aura exploded from Long Fei's body. Boom! He punched out. Long Fei was even lazy to use his skills, so he casually threw out a punch. Just this little bit of strength. Long Fei, looks like the Heavenly Emperor thinks too highly of you. Li Wuming was overjoyed. At this moment, the orders of the Celestial Emperor were thrown to the back of his mind. Because Long Fei was a person who annihilated the Li family. As the only survivor of the Li family, how could he possibly remain indifferent towards Long Fei? Extermination palm. Crash. Li Wuming covered the sky with one hand. He drew down his palm. A violent and destructive power exploded from this palm, enveloping everything. Boom. Instantly, it interweaved with Long Fei's fist. Ha ha ha, boy, compared to my strength, I think you have lost your mind. If you use your special power, this Marquis is still a little afraid. But now, you actually dare to fight against me head-on. Since you are courting death, this Marquis will grant your wish. Li Wuming laughed maniacally. He had absolute confidence in his own palm strike. But just at that moment, he realized that Long Fei was actually smiling. Not only Long Fei, even the people beside Long Fei all looked at him with a face full of pity. Bastard! You actually dare to look down on me? Li Wuming's heart erupted with rage, and he was about to attack again. However, in that instant, a black shadow suddenly appeared in front of them. This. Boom. Asterisk bang. A loud sound came out, and Li Wuming was sent flying by Long Fei's fist. His so-called power of annihilation did not affect Long Fei in the slightest. However, it had been destroyed by Long Fei's fist. I also said, you never need to look at your master when you beat a dog. Die. Hit the dog without looking at its owner. Hit the dog without looking at its owner. Killing without question day and night. Long Fei had always had this kind of temperament. Even if he knew, the more he killed, the better it would be for the Lord of Chaos. Unscrupulous. Since you dare to act tough in front of me, you should be prepared to be killed. Boom. Asterisk Li Wuming's body flew backwards like a kite with its string cut, and he was unable to control his body. Under Long Fei's punch, he was able to move his body freely. Boom. Asterisk boom. Asterisk boom. Asterisk Li Wuming's body was sent flying back several hundred miles, just like a black dot. He had been sent flying out of the primal Chaos Mountain region. Long Fei's figure also instantly chased after him. In this moment, the entire mountain of primordial chaos could no longer remain calm. This is terrible. That was Li Wuming. He was one of the top experts in the entire Sky Empire. Rumor has it that he was one of the Sky Emperor's trump cards with the potential to become a sovereign. However, now. Powerful. What sort of punch was that? I clearly could not feel any power, but why is it so powerful? Long Fei has already risen to prominence. In this era, there is no longer anyone capable of suppressing him, and there is still the Lord of Primal Chaos supporting him. This qualification must belong to him. The people on the Primal Chaos Mountain were all terrified. They were all full of hostility towards Long Fei. The stronger Long Fei got, the more they panicked, afraid that he would settle the score later. As for mercy, restraint. Furthermore, it did not exist. They had already seen Long Fei run rampant and there was no one that could suppress him. Boop. It was also at this time that Long Fei's figure directly appeared in front of Li Wuming. He had a look of disdain on his face. Scream. Li Wuming, you sound so tall. How could you be so useless? Long Fei ridiculed. His eyes stared towards the sky. He knew that there was nothing that Li Wuming could hide from the Celestial Emperor, much less from the Lord of Primal Chaos. Long Fei had never been one to yield. You guys do your dirty work. I'll kill your father's men. As for the end, it all depended on who was more formidable. Cough cough, Long Fei, you despicable and shameless little bastard, you actually dared to sneak in an attack from behind. Li Wuming gasped for breath, the destructive force circulated around his body, the holy source surged crazily, wanting to fix it. A sneak attack. Steal your ass. You're F***king pretending to be in front of Lousy, yet Lousy still wants to argue with you and have a fair fight? Are you stupid? Long Fei rolled his eyes and instantly became speechless. Li Wuming was at a loss for words. A sense of urgency arose in his heart. Long Fei didn't follow the rules too much, he simply didn't have any rules to speak of. Long Fei, I advise you to take care of yourself. Right now, the entire Primal Chaos Mountain is filled with people who want your life. If you know what's good for you and stop now, the Celestial Emperor might even spare your life. Otherwise, today will be the day you die. Li Wuming raised his head and looked straight at Long Fei. But Long Fei did not think so. The corners of his mouth twitched, and a cold sneer appeared on it. Threatening? Li Wuming, you're still threatening at this time? I really don't know who gave you the courage. You can make such a decision. However, very good. I'll send you to hell with this decision. Long Fei said, and the power in his hands condensed once again. However, This time, a spear appeared in his hand. The spear broke through the sky. It was dropped from the hands of the Divine Space's Jew family general. However, in the hands of Long Fei, it was as if there was a change in nature. The will to fight exploded in the skies as he faced off against the Celestial Emperor. TSK, although it's not as good as a big killing weapon, it's still enough. Long Fei thought, and arranged the power of the pubes. In an instant, the great way of the Buddha began to revolve crazily once again, directly piercing through the sky-breaking spear technique through the arm. Ding! Heaven-breaking spear's mutation has been upgraded to Berserk Heaven-breaking spear. Attributes: battle, kill, skill, sky-splitting strike. Description: existence of the ancient power, breaking the heavens and destroying the earth. A single spear strike had defeated the enemy. It could kill players above LV 18. After the first strike, the spear broke into pieces and he attacked once more. At this moment, the system sounded out. Even Long Fei was caught off guard. He had not expected this at all. The power of one pubes had actually allowed one super artifact to evolve. F*CK, this F*K. Long Fei's eyes lit up, looking at the introduction of the system. His heart was no longer at ease. There was no limit on the level of those who could kill beyond level 18. Didn't this mean that even if it were a respected expert, he would be able to instantly kill them? Ha ha ha, awesome. Long Fei laughed incessantly in his heart. More importantly, although this power was one-time use, his own pubes power was permanent, right? As long as the power remained, wouldn't that mean that I can evolve the holy artifact in bulk? Sky Emperor was awesome. At that time, I will throw out a few mutated super artifact. Even if he didn't die, he would at least shed a layer of skin. In an instant, Long Fei's eyes released a light. He looked at Li Wuming without any hesitation. Leave this attack to the Celestial Emperor. As for you, die for me. In that moment, Long Fei immediately took action. Ignoring the Berserk fighting sky-splitting spear, he simply threw out another punch. Boop! Boom. The punch was shattered. Fire appeared on Long Fei's fist as if it was burning the heavens and the earth. Boom. A fist once again landed on Li Wuming's body. All of a sudden, Li Wuming's chest was pierced through. It was pure physical damage. At such a close distance, Li Wuming could not even dodge. He could only bear it. Under the punch, Li Wuming's eyes widened. Looking at Long Fei, then looking at his own chest, he started to become crazy. Ah. No. Don't kill me. Long Fei, you can't kill me. You've already annihilated the Li family. Don't tell me you still want to exterminate them all. Li Wuming's entire body trembled violently. The power of annihilation was completely useless. But Long Fei just disdained this kind of begging. Exterminate all? You're right, from the moment you guys started plotting against me, this conclusion has already been set in stone. You only have 100 HP left, what are you screaming for? Die. While he's sick, I want his life. As he turned around, Long Fei directly sent a slap flying. And this palm also became the final strike to end Li Wuming's life. Ding. Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing Li Wuming. You have obtained 60,000 experience, 60,000 holy source points and 1 striking value. A system prompt appeared. But other than experience and holy source value, there was nothing else. System, did you get it wrong? How can you give me so little experience when I'm at the peak of legendary? Aren't you being a little picky? Long Fei said as he frowned. It wasn't just skinning. Even if he leveled up himself, the amount of experience he would receive from leveling up would be too little. If this continued, how long would it take for him to guess that he would be able to level up? However, there was no response from the system. Helpless, Long Fei could only give up. But right at this moment, a change occurred in the entire primordial chaos. In the distance, the silhouette of the Celestial Emperor appeared. He stared straight at Long Fei. Long Fei, are you forcing this Emperor to take action? The mountains of primordial chaos were completely silent. The mountains of primordial chaos were completely silent. The celestial emperor was synonymous with control. Blood flowed like a river from the wrath of the celestial emperor. Su su su. In the silence, one figure after another began to dissipate, completely distancing themselves from the center of the storm, not daring to stay for even a moment. Because they had a bone-deep reverence towards the celestial emperor. It was just like how, under the rule of a king, the imperial power was unparalleled. It was a humility that came from the depths of one's bones on the level of life. In their eyes, the imperial power was the absolute powerhouse. Invincible rule. TSK, TSK, Long Fei is playing with fire, provoking the celestial emperor, he is courting death. Mph, go ahead and do it. He thought that just because he was powerful that he was powerful. However, you must know, the heavenly emperor is a title bestowed by the heavens, he is supreme and unparalleled. It's a good thing he died. I can't bear to see him act so arrogantly. The wall was pushed by everyone, they are the fence-sitters. Previously, when Long Fei had gone berserk, they had not said a single word. Now, as soon as the heavenly emperor was out, they started jumping and belittling Long Fei crazily. In their opinion, Long Fei was already a dead man. There were no surprises. Long Fei's gaze shifted towards a few directions on the primal chaos mountain. These words, not a word fell into his ears. This was another kind of power for pubes. It was as if he could sense hostility. There's such a thing. That's awesome. Arrogant. All of you are like ants, willing to be slaves trash. Living is also a waste of air, I'll send you all to your deaths. Long Fei's eyes moved, and a strand of power faintly rotated within his palms. And then, an incomparable torrent of energy surged forth. It seemed to connect the entire space. In an instant, a giant hand appeared. Hand of chaos, great capture, whoosh. A palm flashed out, grabbing over hundreds of people. There was no bias. They were all the people who had recommended and belittled Long Fei just now. You say I'm arrogant. Then Laozi will be as arrogant as to let you see. So what if it's the Celestial Emperor? Do you think you have a backer just because the Celestial Emperor came? Do I have concerns? Too naive. Long Fei enunciated every word coldly. So what if it was the Celestial Emperor? Even the Emperor Xian did not allow Long Fei to surrender, nor did Long Batian make Long Fei bend his waist. A Celestial Emperor? It could make Long Fei stop. It did not exist. Moreover, Long Fei was also filled with anticipation for the berserk sky-splitting spear. He didn't know if he could kill the Celestial Emperor. Thinking about it, Long Fei used a bit of force in his primal chaos hand. The pubes' power was channeled into it. Ding, the hand of chaos mutated, leveled up to the sky-cracking hand of primal chaos. Attributes: capture, rend. Description: infinite capture. Locking and capturing within 1,000,000 miles. Endless strangling. Destroying the soul and body with a single blow. Long Fei was slightly taken aback. He had not expected this at all. Not only could weapons be mutated, but even skills had been mutated. It was only now that he remembered what Long Batian had said, that this was his first good fortune. A transformation. F*ck, it's more than just metamorphosis, it's a complete open scam. Once this script is out, who else could it be? Long Fei was extremely excited. At this point, there were very few things that could affect Long Fei's state of mind. But now it was different. The power of the Great Dao Root was equivalent to reshuffling all of his skills and weapons. Regroup. Mutated. It had been completely upgraded. This kind of power was not on the top of the system, but it was on the same level as the system. To Long Fei, this was definitely a breakthrough. The system's control was too strong, Long Fei had no choice. But now, with the pubes' foundation, Long Fei felt a little more confident. How could Long Batian be so kind, and give me this power? He must have other plans. But now is not the time to think about these things. Long Fei suppressed the guesses in his mind. Regarding matters where there were no results, he did not want to waste another brain cell. Soldiers come and block, men come and go. Long Fei had never been afraid. At the same time, the power of the hand of chaos erupted, annihilating hundreds of people in the blink of an eye. Ding, ding, ding. The sound of the system echoed. Although hundreds of people were at the early stage of super-perfection, to Long Fei, they were all trash. One person only gave less than 1,000 experience, which made Long Fei's heart ache abnormally. What the F***CK? Boss. What I need is a boss. This level isn't even enough to fill the gaps in one's teeth. Long Fei cursed in his heart as he looked at the Celestial Emperor. Pretentious criminal, are you going to make a move? Long Fei said casually. It was true that the Heavenly Emperor was an extremely pretentious criminal in Long Fei's heart. He never moved his mouth, never his hands. Furthermore, the person who walked out of the door was none other than the Emperor. He appeared to be paralyzed in all four limbs, with an eternally expressionless and ice-cold appearance. This kind of situation, let Long Fei directly define it. They were just pretending to be some kind of espionage. Long Fei, you're courting death. The Celestial Emperor's gaze turned cold. Anger exploded. The pressure of the Supreme Emperor Wei descended from the skies. KCHA. *KAKA. Countless buildings began to crack and crack. It was simply impossible to withstand the aura of the Celestial Emperor. Even Long Fei felt his heart tremble. But at that moment, the pubes's aura shook, and light shone from the great way of the Buddha. Instantly, all the pressure vanished. Then, Long Fei raised his head and laughed in disdain. Why, aren't you supreme? Is it just this little bit of power? Long Fei ridiculed. At this moment, he was probing. He wanted to know how great the gap was between the current Heavenly Emperor and this so-called Heavenly Emperor. Before, he wasn't a match at all. But now, he had risen to the third level. Not only that, the Grand Tao was at stake, and the strength system had been upgraded. Therefore, Long Fei couldn't wait to confirm it. But what he didn't expect was that the Heavenly Emperor remained unmoving, and only his eyes became colder and colder. Ha ha ha, old Heavenly Emperor, why aren't you saying anything? Are you scared by my boss? Below, Li Yuanba also said. Dad, put that old man down. That chair is not bad, I like it. The little guy was eager to stir up trouble, wanting to get the Venerable One to join him. When the two of them spoke, their words caused the world's expression to become even more unsightly. The aura on his body also became more and more terrifying. For a time, no one in the entire primal Chaos Mountain dared to speak. They were thoroughly crushed and their heads lowered as they prostrated themselves. However, Long Fei's expression did not change. The brilliance of the great Tao root instantly swallowed up all of the pressure. It was as if this power was nothing but dregs in front of the foundations of the great Tao. But Long Fei couldn't hold it in anymore. If you don't want to do it, then I'll do it. Look at your so-called heaven's gift, see exactly how amazing you are. Berserk sky-splitting spear. Heaven breaker. Long Fei bellowed, light revolving in his hands, and a black spear that carried an endless berserk chi was instantly thrown out. Whiz. The long spear split the skies, emitting an unbridled aura as it pierced through the void, causing the void to be scorched into nothingness. Boom, 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 boom. The power of this spear was too strong, it could ignore everything. The Emperor's chi of the Heavenly Emperor could not be stopped at all and instantly shattered. In this instant, the entire chaos world was thrown into chaos. Everyone's eyes were fixated on this spear. His eyes were dim and filled with fear. This was because just the aura alone was causing their souls to tremble. The hairs on his body stood on end. However, the more it was like this, the more they were afraid to move their line of sight. They were afraid that the spear would suddenly change directions and target them. At this moment, the Sky Emperor's expression changed drastically as well. Boop. Boom. Immediately, he sat up from the throne. She was no longer graceful and calm like before. Now, he could no longer remain calm. He was even avoiding his eyes. No, that's not possible. I am a divine body. There is no power that can affect me. A heaven-sent ruler is the supreme existence in the Bedlam lands. It is impossible for any power to go against his will. I don't believe it, the celestial emperor said solemnly. At the same time, his body trembled. His imperial robes fluttered in the wind. The power of the emperor was released from his body, forming an invisible armor. The dragon's shadow howled ferociously. In the distance, Long Fei's pupils contracted as a cold light flashed in his eyes. Dragon. Imperial power, from the dragon. However, at this moment, the armor worn by the heavenly emperor was extraordinary. It was obvious that he had to refine the colossal dragon's soul and fuse it with his own strength in order to reach such a level. Instantly, Long Fei's killing intent exploded out. Because he was a dragon. Kill. With a loud shout, Long Fei's figure instantly shot into the sky. At this moment, what rules of chaos? What restrictions? He threw it all to the back of his mind. Because Long Fei had never forgotten. He was a dragon. To his surprise, no power exploded out, as if the laws of the primal chaos were equally useless to Long Fei. However, what Long Fei did not know was that this time, he would soar into the sky. The people on the primal chaos mountain were shocked. Long Fei couldn't feel it, but they could see it clearly in both their eyes. It was not that the power of the Lord of Primal Chaos did not appear, but it was directly broken through by Long Fei. The heavens actually weren't even able to suppress the Lord of Chaos's laws. It's over. He's too strong. Even the Lord of Primordial Chaos wasn't able to suppress him. Who could be his match? Go, leave, immediately leave the mountain. Otherwise, when he obtains the position of the champion of the qualification tournament, will we be able to live? It was just a single scene, but it caused everyone to panic endlessly. They could already tell that Long Fei had already soared into the sky and no one could suppress him. Thinking of their attitude toward Long Fei from before, their hearts turned cold. It was as if life no longer belonged to them, but was only temporary. Far off in the distance, in the center of the primordial chaos, the figure of the Lord of Primordial Chaos appeared as well. Looking at Long Fei who soared into the sky, his eyes grew cold. It can actually break through my power? And in just 2 days, he seems to have been reborn and his battle power has increased by leaps and bounds. Interesting. However, the stronger you are, the more I like you. Go ahead. Let me see where your limit is. The Lord of Primal Chaos pushed aside the primal chaos clouds and coldly stared at Long Fei. The scene changed again, and Long Fei's figure already broke through the horizon. The speed was unimaginable. It was as if he had been pulled up from dry land. In a split second, he grasped the berserk heaven-breaking spear in his hand. After which, he pushed his spear forward. Boom. KCHA. The sky-breaking spear instantly turned even more berserk, turning into an incomparably huge spear. It seemed to possess the power to lift the heavens, attacking the armor on the heavenly emperor's body in an instant. Instantly, cracking sounds could be heard. All he saw was streams of royal chi disappearing without a trace. Fart. After the light faded, the sky-splitting spear returned to its original size. Under Long Fei's power, it instantly penetrated the heavenly emperor's chest. Puff. The celestial emperor was sent flying backwards. The power of the royal Tao, the armor of honor. It was all useless. Berserk fighting breaking heaven, spear breaking through the sky. At the same time, the entire sky-breaking spear shattered with a loud bang. The light scattered and then exploded like ice. It instantly exploded. Long Fei's figure steadied in midair, and his eyes were gloomy. Looking around, everyone present was like an ant, as they silently lowered their heads. Below, Li Yuanbar and the rest were all dumbstruck. I will. This was too heaven-defying. When did my boss learn this? Awesome. Li Yuanbar was extremely excited. The stronger Long Fei became, the more excited he became. You're right, this is truly heaven-defying. Heaven's bestowal has always been an unbreakable existence from the ancient times to the present. Last time, it was also the boss who used some sort of special power to defeat the celestial emperor. But now, this is the boss's own power. He broke apart a person that was bestowed with the title of Heaven's Sovereign. Li Wuxin was extremely excited. He was even more clear on what the Heavens Gift hierarchy represented. Forbidden. In the unknown primal chaos, the hierarchy of the heavens was at the top of the pyramid. This was a taboo that all living beings looked up to. But now, Long Fei had done it. A spear pierced through the sky, breaking the taboo. The little guy's eyes were shining. He was extremely excited, and if he wasn't stopped by Yari, he would have flown up as well. Dad, kill him. Let's see how arrogant he is. The little guy was dancing with joy. Similarly, in a corner of the territory, Oya brought 6 Vaja with her. They were all extremely excited. It was too exciting. They pounded their chests and stomped their feet, wishing that they could fight to the death on the spot. If it wasn't for Oya stopping them, no one would want to stay for another minute. Then, he looked at Long Fei, who was standing proudly in the air. Invincible. To look down on the world. He swept the area with his eyes, causing all of the heroes present to bow their heads. It's starting. The boss is already up. There's absolutely no way to suppress him in this chaos. Chen Tianfei was extremely excited. Yes, this is Long Fei, born with eyes that look down on heroes. Haha, what sister-in-law says is right. Only then will it fit boss plan. He was born with a pair of eyes that slandered heroes. Eldest sis, let's quickly show our faces and fight with eldest brother. That's the true madness. The 6 King Kong were talking while rubbing their fists and wiping their palms. My large saber has long been unable to endure the thirst. Black Knife Uncle muttered as his fighting spirit rose. My sword is his sword. I will wait and fight with him, Aoya said. However, at this moment, regardless of who it might be, none of them could compare with the Heavenly Emperor. The Celestial Emperor lowered his head and looked at his chest, where a huge hole had been punched in it. His face was filled with shock. Impossible. You're trash. How could you possibly injure me? Impossible. A position of honor is a taboo. Who would dare to touch a taboo? I don't believe it. The Celestial Emperor roared, and his imperial robe trembled. The power of the infinite Emperor Dao surged forward. Any existence that touches upon a taboo definitely allows it. Long Fei, no matter how many tricks you have up your sleeve, this world will not tolerate you. Even the Lord of all fiends wouldn't dare to protect you. Die. The Celestial Emperor attacked in a frenzy. He used every method he could. Under the rage and embarrassment, he no longer cared about anything. Even if it was the Lord of the Chaos, he wouldn't be able to do anything about it. Because this time, Long Fei had injured him herself. Before this, he would never dare to imagine such a thing. If he was injured this time, then what was the next time? The Celestial Emperor didn't dare to imagine. Killing you is taboo. Then you think too highly of yourself. What I want is the blood of the heavens, the blood of the earth, and the collapse of primordial chaos. Great killing weapon, come. A divine treasure had a spirit. A divine treasure had a spirit. The big killer weapon had followed Long Fei for a period of time, and under the big killer weapon, it was even better. Originally, Long Fei wanted to give the King Kong to Da Kong to go one step further. But now, in order to face the Celestial Emperor, Long Fei could only summon his power. Although it was a pity, Long Fei believed that if the killing machine changed again, it was definitely more awesome than the sky-shattering spear. If the sky-splitting spear could injure the Celestial Emperor, then what about the ultimate killing weapon? As expected, Long Fei had already decided to take it head-on. Originally, Long Fei did not think about it too much, he only wanted to kill Li Wu Ming. But now, the root of the pubis S was too powerful. This made Long Fei's heart filled with an urgent desire to exterminate the Heavenly Emperor. As for the words that the Celestial Emperor himself had said just now, this made Long Fei even more unhappy. Forbidden. A taboo to the common people? Just how amazing were you? How amazing were you that you would make the common people regard you as a taboo that they would not dare to touch or touch? F***ck, lousy can't stand to see people like you who think they are high and mighty like you. You are born free, you are just a bird. Self-proclaimed taboo, you want me to worship you? Impossible. Today, I will kill you. Even if you are a taboo, so what? The heavens and the earth will tremble, the gods will weep, and this taboo of yours will die. Long Fei did not hesitate at all. Since it had come to this point. Nothing to say. At the end. Whiz. And at this time, a killing weapon instantly came from Li Yuanba's body and landed in front of Long Fei. In the instant of contact, the pubes's power erupted. Ding, the great killing tool mutated, leveling up to sky-slaughtering blade. Attribute 2, Annihilation. Description, heaven-slaughtering blade. Endless killing intent. Condensed killing intent that can slaughter the heavens. A killing intent that can destroy the heavens. Skill, massacre the heavens. One strike, with absolute killing intent, can slaughter anything in this world. Long Fei's heart jumped when he saw the final description. Sure enough, the heaven-breaking spear couldn't compare to it. Once the great killing tool mutated, it would immediately become a sky-slaying weapon. The world was vast. Who dared to say they would massacre the heavens? But now, Long Fei, who held the sky-slaughtering blade in his hand, had such an impulse. It was slaughter the heavens. Even the heavens dared to massacre them. A mere celestial emperor was nothing. In that moment, Long Fei's heart was filled with passion. Who cares who you are? Swish. In the blink of an eye, the saber light shot into the sky. It tore through the sky as if it wanted to tear the entire world asunder. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Rumble. Boundless rumbling sounds rose and fell like the rumbling of thunder. Heaven and earth shook and hung upside down. The entire chaos world was shaking. It was as if she was equally afraid of Long Fei's attack exploding out. The celestial emperor's face was instantly filled with panic. The power of the king was released crazily from his body, but even so, he was still unable to match Long Fei's blade. Ruumbel! What emperor's power, what divine bestowal from the heavens, at this moment? They were all trash. Nothing. Disintegration. How is this possible? How can such a power exist in this world? This is completely outside the rules of the unknown land. You are the judge of the Tao, yes, you are the judge of the Tao. No wonder your strength is so hard to see through. Lord of the Chaos, quick, attack. Long Fei is a Tao judge. Instantly, the Celestial Emperor was terrified. After the defensive power of the Emperor dissipated, he began to retreat explosively. He called for help. He hoped that the Lord of Primordial Chaos would be able to act. The entire void was in chaos. The primordial chaos had dissipated, but the Lord of Primordial Chaos had yet to attack. There wasn't even a shadow to be seen. Swish. With one slash, Long Fei's speed increased, as though he was condensing the force of slaughter to its highest point. He chased after them. Boom. *KCHA. The Heavenly Emperor's figure was cut down as a series of numbers appeared. Health 699990000. It was 60 billion HP. In addition, this was true damage, ignoring levels. Boom. The silhouette of the Heavenly Emperor descended from the skies, directly landing onto the ground in the dust. Ruumbel. Chaos shook, and a huge crater was formed in the mountain. At the same time, an extremely terrifying aura instantly erupted from the mountain of primal chaos. A streak of blood shot into the sky. They hovered above the sky, lingering. Heavens, what is this? Is it a precious treasure? What a powerful blood energy. Could it be that this mountain contains some sort of genius treasure? It must be. If I obtain this power. Instantly, the minds of countless people started to flood over. He was filled with desire towards the soaring power that would erupt from the mountain of primal chaos. However, they only desired it, and did not dare to make a move. The Heavenly Emperor was still in the air and they could still clearly remember Long Fei's berserk methods. At this time, no matter who went, they would die. It was also at this time. The Celestial Emperor turned around and flew out of the pit with his hair and face all disheveled. At this time, Long Fei could also clearly see the amount of blood on his body. 500 billion. A true super big boss. Long Fei's eyes turned cold as a bright light flashed across them. After leveling up, the super perfection stage wasn't a threat at all. He had long since left the boss stage. Only someone like the Emperor Xian could become a true boss. Boss. The boss light has finally appeared again. It's been too long, your father has long been unable to endure the thirst. Long Fei's heart thumped. The blood and qi of the chaotic mountains, they weren't precious treasures at all. Long Fei had long known this from Long Beixian's mouth. There was no desire to touch it at all. Besides, this was the grand scheme of the Lord of Chaos. Who would dare covet it? Even if Long Fei had the great way of the Buddha, he wouldn't dare to touch it. After all, he hadn't even reached the level of a paragon yet. The difference in levels was an absolute limit. The person in front of him was the Celestial Emperor. A super big boss. What should we do? What should we do? Is the divine treasure not enough? Do I have to use imperial clothing? Long Fei's eyes flashed. Even though the great Tao root was berserk, increasing the power of the heavenly treasure, it was clear that the heavenly treasure could not keep up. After going berserk, it directly shattered. KCHA. Asterisk at this time, the power of the killing weapon had been fully unleashed. After a single slash, it also began to crumble. Long Fei, this emperor is going to kill you. A judge of the Tao should not exist in this world. Your methods must be gone, right? Right now, I shall see how you will withstand it. If you want to die, you will definitely die. The Celestial Emperor was incomparably crazed. Heavenly Emperor Sword. Judgment Tao. Once again, the Celestial Emperor struck out, unleashing all the power in his body. Swish. The sword beam descended from the sky and closed in on Long Fei. Immortal body, absolute body, open. Long Fei's eyes congealed, and instantly reacted. Puff. A sword descended. The entire sky turned into a world of sword light. The 10 million sword shadows blotted out the sky and covered the earth. It was as if the primal chaos itself was being twisted into pieces. In this instant, Long Fei felt as if his soul was being pulled. The enormous pressure made it difficult for him to breathe. Fart. Countless of sword images broke through the horizon, directly striking Long Fei's body. In that moment, Long Fei felt as if his entire being was pierced by thousands of arrows. His meridians, bone marrow, and flesh were all filled with an irresistible force. If it were not for the absolute tyrant body, the immortal body, I would already be dead. No, we absolutely cannot sit still and wait for death. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,